Chapter 1767. This time, it didn't matter if the hidden houses were at odds with each other or not, all of them came. They were all heads of the houses, and all of them were old heads. For these old patriarchs to personally come, it was obvious that they wanted to discuss an important matter. Most of these hidden families were in a competitive relationship, but when it came to matters of common interest, they would cooperate with each other. Old Zhao, I didn't think that you'd become a sky class early phase already. I remember that you were still an earth class late phase peak when I sent Lil Chin to celebrate your birthday last year, right? Old ancestor Yu looked at his daughter-in-law in shock. He didn't think that in less than a year, he'd become a sky class. Ha 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 ha, am I that useless in your eyes? What, do you feel uncomfortable now that I've become a sky class? Old man Zhao laughed and said, you are already a heaven stage expert. If I don't work hard, how can I? That's true. Our houses Yu and Zhao have always been close, and I'm happy that your house is thriving. Old ancestor Yu turned to Guanyin, who was behind old Zhao, and said faintly, Guanyin, I heard from Lil Jin that you're preparing to bring back an illegitimate child. What's going on? It's okay for a man to be a bit romantic, but don't cause a family conflict because of this. Guanyin's face reddened. The old ancestor of House Yu only mentioned it lightly, but for a sky class to ask about it, it was definitely not a small matter. It meant that the old ancestor of House Yu was dissatisfied with what he did. With that thought, Guanyin could only answer, Father-in-law, this was decided by our old ancestor, and it wasn't Guanyin's idea. He could only push this to old Zhao, and in fact, it was old Zhao's decision. Now that old Zhao and old ancestor Yu were both sky classes, naturally, they wouldn't turn against each other over something like this. In the hidden houses, once an elder became a sky class, they'd call him old ancestor. This was because the lifespan of a sky class would be lengthened, and after becoming a sky class, they could protect the house for at least 100 years, so it wasn't wrong to call him old ancestor. This was my idea. Old Master Zhao took over the matter. No matter what, he's still a descendant of my Zhao family. Taking advantage of the joyous occasion of my breakthrough to the heaven rank to bring him back, it's not a big deal. Sanctuary. Old Yu nodded and didn't say anything else. His daughter wasn't happy about this, but this was House Zhao's family business, after all. Since old Zhao had already said so, it wasn't appropriate for him to say anything else. Naturally, it would be a different story if old Zhao hadn't advanced to the heaven rank. A heaven rank powerhouse was like a guardian to a hidden family. As long as there was a heaven rank powerhouse keeping watch, and as long as the family didn't provoke a more powerful force, it could guarantee that the family wouldn't decline within 100 years. But if some of the young people in the family were so full of themselves that they became brainless and provoked a more powerful force, then it would be a different story. However, a hidden house with a heaven rank powerhouse was already comparable to a normal ancient sect. Even those ancient sects with only 1 or 2 heaven ranks would have to think twice before making a move on a hidden house with a heaven rank powerhouse. So old Zhao breaking through to the heaven rank was a good thing and a bad thing for old Yu. The good thing was that the two houses were related by marriage, and could be considered allies. The bad thing was that House Yu wouldn't be able to control House Zhao anymore. House Yu's original plan was to wait for Yu Xiaojin and Zhao Guanyin's child to grow up and take over House Zhao. At that time, House Yu's grandfather would be there, and he'd be able to interfere with some of House Zhao's decisions. But now that House Yu's grandfather was there, even if his grandson became the young master, he wouldn't be able to make decisions on his own. Just like House Yu's Yu Xiaoqin, when it came to House Yu's benefits, they still had to ask for his permission. The Zhao family's ancestor advancing to the heaven rank made the patriarchs of the other hidden families feel strange. They didn't know what kind of fortuitous encounter the Zhao family's patriarch had, but it wasn't good to ask. How they advanced to the heaven rank was a taboo to others, so it was impossible for them to expect others to tell them. Congratulations, old friend Xiao. This time, it was old Master Pai who spoke. He was also a heaven class, but he was a physical heaven class. To be able to break through to heaven class as a physical practitioner was quite rare. Congratulations. The one who spoke was the old master of the Yu family. Although the old master of the Yu family focused on alchemy and cultivation as a supplement, no one could underestimate his heaven stage strength and control of alchemy fire. When a refiner reached heaven class, even if they didn't have any special techniques, just using the fire to create a killing move was enough to give people headaches. Unless it was a water type, ice type, or snow type cultivator that could restrain fire type cultivators, other cultivators might not even be able to get close to him before their clothes were burnt to a crisp. Of course, these hidden houses elders, other than House Yu's elder, had all broken through to Sky class in recent years. The reason why the Hidden House Association was able to intimidate them was because House Yu only had one Sky class, House Yu's elder. They were weak, and the Hidden House Association was able to completely suppress them. But these years, with the disappearance of the founder of the Hidden Family Arbitration Association and the disappearance of the Chief Grand Elder, these ancestors that had advanced to the heaven rank started to become restless. They didn't want to be suppressed by the Hidden Family Arbitration Association, so they decided to hold this Hidden Family Convention. However, the elders here were all smart people. None of them were stupid. Though they had the same goal this time, none of them wanted to be the first to stand out. After all, what if the great elder of the Hidden House Association was still here? What if he came back to punish the hidden house that broke the rules? Therefore, these old men sat around the conference table in silence. In-law, you used to be the second elder of the Hidden House Council. Now that the Grand Elder isn't here, as the second elder, why don't you say something? Old Master Zhao saw that everyone was silent, so he spoke after a moment. Currently, among the hidden houses, the strongest were still the Hidden House Yu and the Hidden House Yu. The Hidden House Yu had 2 Sky Class Masters, while the Hidden House Yu only had 1 Sky Class Master, the Old Man of House Yu. However, it was unknown how many Sky Class Masters they had in the dark. Chapter 1768. Chapter 1778. Think of a way, yeah, old Yu, from the looks of it, your House Yu's desire to go to the common world for revenge is the strongest. Old Tang's birthday banquet was ruined, and his relationship with the Ice Palace was broken. Naturally, he hated Lin Yi and wanted to get rid of him as soon as possible, but what happened on the birthday banquet was sealed. He couldn't cause trouble for Lin Yi in the open, in case people found out the truth. So, naturally, he encouraged the Hidden House Yu to avenge the Common House Yu. Please remember Hawks everyone, although the Common House Yu was destroyed, and we, the Hidden House Yu, want to avenge them, but we're not in the right here. Elder Yu wasn't stupid. The Hidden House Council has already said that hidden houses can't get involved in the common world's business. We've been helping the Common House Yu earn money, and that's already a violation of the Hidden House's agreement. If we use this as an excuse to get revenge, then when Grand Elder comes back, it'll be us Hidden House Yu who'll be in trouble. So, even if we want to test them, we need to come up with a good reason. Even if Grand Elder questions us, we can push the blame away and not let someone else take the blame. You're right, in-law. Elder Zhao nodded, but we don't have a reason to leave the mountain, right? When Jean Woody of the Golden Bell sect left the mountain, Grand Elder wasn't there, we were the ones who allowed it. His reason for leaving the mountain was good, to avenge his disciple, but he died after that, and Grand Elder couldn't find anyone to blame. Everyone agreed with what Elder Zhao said. If Jean Woody didn't die, then they could test if Grand Elder still existed or not, but now that he was dead, there was no need for Grand Elder to appear. So, if they wanted to leave the mountain, they had to find a good reason. Everyone, let's brainstorm. Think about it. Is there a reason for us to leave the mountain so that even if the Great Elder knows, he won't blame us? Said Old Master Yu. That. It's not like there's no way. Old Yu sighed. The establishment of the Hidden House Arbitration Association is to restrict the hidden houses, but it's also to mediate the conflicts between hidden houses so that they don't fight each other. You mean, we should fake a conflict and let the Great Elder come out to judge? Old Master Zhao's eyes lit up as he asked. That's right. Old Yu nodded. As long as we create a conflict and let the two hidden houses fight, the association will definitely intervene. This way, the Grand Elder will have to show himself. But, didn't we say before that we can hold a hidden family meeting to resolve ordinary conflicts? Moreover, there is still you, the Second Elder. There are some things that you, the Second Elder, can also make the decision. Old Master Yu frowned and asked. That's true, but what if our house Yu has a conflict with another house? Elder Yu smiled and asked in return. Oh. House Yu's Old Man Yu froze for a moment and couldn't help but give a thumbs up to House Yu's Old Man Yu. Ha, you're indeed the first to advance to sky rank. As the Second Elder of the Hidden House Arbitration Association, if you have conflicts with other people, then we really can't interfere. Only the Grand Elder can come out to judge. That's right. Old Yu nodded. Everyone here isn't an outsider. Who would be willing to put on this show with our house Yu? Of course, they might suffer a bit, but this is the only way. After all, no one wants to be the first to break the rules. If none of you are willing, then pretend I didn't say anything. Of course, we're all willing to play along, but the problem is that we don't have a suitable point of conflict. The old man of the Yu family said, our two families are evenly matched. If you say that we want to have a conflict, if we really fight with swords and guns, we will definitely suffer heavy losses. At that time, we may not necessarily be able to determine the winner. If there is no suitable reason for the conflict, then others will think that we are acting. At our age, we're not idiots. We can't be as impulsive as young people. That's true. But, perhaps some of you here have heard that we lost a chi gathering pill. With that, Old Yu looked at Old Zhao. As far as he was concerned, Yu Xiaojin must have told Old Zhao. If she knew about this, then she must have told Old Zhao. However, Elder Zhao misunderstood. Could it be that House Yu had found out something? Could it be that Yu Huixing didn't keep his mouth shut and spilled the beans? I've heard about it. Old Zhao said calmly, but why did you bring this up all of a sudden? If the pill was taken by other houses, then there would be a point of conflict. Old Yu said, Xiaochen could have entered Sky Class, but such a good chance is gone. The person who took the pill will be the enemy of House Yu, and it's understandable that House Yu would fight with all our might. But, House Yu won't take your pill. Although it's hard to make, if we want it, hee. It's not that we can't make it, it's just that the investment isn't worth it, Old Yu said with a smile. The people present didn't think that Elder Yu was exaggerating at all. After all, the Qi Gathering Pill was a top-notch medicine for the hidden houses, but it wasn't much for the ancient sects, especially the Sky Elixir School. They could make it if they wanted to, but there would be some side effects after using it. Only people like Yu Xiaochen, who wasn't that talented, would use it. After all, if Yu Xiaochen didn't have the Qi Gathering Pill, he'd be stuck at Earth Class Late Phase Peak for the rest of his life. Forcefully breaking through to Sky Class after using the Qi Gathering Pill would be extremely difficult, but Yu Xiaochen didn't think that he'd be able to break through again. This was the difference between hidden houses and ancient sections. Hidden houses were mostly satisfied with Sky Class. With the protection of a Sky Class, it could ensure the family's prosperity. The ancient sects, on the other hand, pursued an even higher level than Sky Class, Heavenly Dao. It was just that no one had broken through to the Heavenly Dao yet, and those who had once pursued the Heavenly Dao had all disappeared. Thus, no one knew what kind of strength was above the heaven rank, nor did they know if there were any stronger existences above the heavenly Tao. Chapter 1769. Although old ancestor Yu knew about this, he also knew that House Yu didn't have any talented people. They only collected these things for the master behind the scenes. Holy Hall Elder Yu's words shocked everyone present. It seemed that the hidden Yu family's current strength was just a facade. No one knew how many experts they had in their family and how many trump cards they had. In my opinion, this chi-gathering pill was snatched away by the old friend of the Zhao family, right? Old Master Yu of the Yu family said. You. Don't slander us. How could we, House Zhao, steal House Yu's chi-gathering pill? Old Zhao was shocked and quickly denied it. Old Yu was speechless. I say, Old Zhao, aren't you being too emotional? I don't mean that you really stole House Yu's chi-gathering pill, but among us hidden families, only you just broke through to Sky Class. So, if you say that you stole the pill, it would be the most reasonable. You used the pill to break through to Sky Class, so you fell out with House Yu. I see. Old Zhao let out a sigh of relief and cursed in his heart. Old man, you guessed it right. I broke through because I stole House Yu's chi-gathering pill. However, with this act, they could more or less cover up the truth. Although they would become the target of public criticism, no one would believe that he really stole House Yu's chi-gathering pill. However, Old Zhao wasn't stupid. He thought for a while and said, my in-laws and I put up such a dangerous act for everyone. When the time comes, everyone will benefit. Won't we lose out a little? Ha! The old master of the Yu family seemed to know that the old master of the Zhao family would ask this question, so he smiled and said, don't worry, we are not ingrates. Your two families have stood up for all of us. We will not treat you badly in secret. This time, the Yu family will offer generous elixirs as a thank you gift. House Tang, although we don't have medicinal pills, we still have some money. Old Tang said. Us too. House Pai's old man and the others all expressed their willingness to give some benefits in secret. Thus, the matter was temporarily settled. These few days, House Yu pretended to have received a tip-off from their daughter, Yu Xiaojin, saying that the pill was stolen by House Zhao. House Yu, on the other hand, had Yu Huixing cooperate with them, accusing House Zhao of wrongdoing. This way, the conflict between the two houses would escalate to an irreconcilable point, and then they could summon the elder. While Lin Yi was in seclusion, something happened in Songshan. Takitara Chu Pingzhan looked at the numbers on the computer screen. Even someone like him, who had seen the world, couldn't remain calm. This speed of earning money was too fast, wasn't it? Pingzhan Industries had never been this profitable since he took over the company. Pingzhan had heard of people who could earn as much money as they wanted, but he dismissed them with a laugh. But now, he understood that people like that did exist, and he was one of them. Pingzhan picked up his phone excitedly and dialed a Mingyue's number. Brother Pingzhan, why are you calling me again? Didn't we just talk? I've sent the current profit to your email box. Have you received it? And Mingyue asked calmly. Yes, I've sent it to you. I got it, of course I got it, Brother Mingyue, that's why I'm calling you. Futures. Isn't it a little too fast? Pingzhan was very happy. The money he'd earned in this period of time was equivalent to Pingzhan Industries' annual profit. Haha, that's what the futures market is like. Plus, with that friend of Jiang Wen's here, it's only natural that we earn more, and Mingyue smiled. Thank you, Brother Mingyue, for having such a good way to earn money and not forgetting about your old neighbor. Pingzhan said gratefully. You don't have to thank me, Brother Pingzhan. The more money you have, the more you earn. If it weren't for you investing so much money, I wouldn't have earned this much if I'd done it myself. And Mingyue said nonchalantly, plus, it's just a matter of convenience. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 sheep, haha, it's just a small effort. Brother Mingyue, if that's the case, then I'll cut to the chase. I won't say any more thank yous, let's get down to business. What do you think, I'll invest more now? Pingzhan looked at the numbers on the screen, it was hard for him not to be tempted. Invest more. And Mingyue paused. I say, Brother Pingzhan, does Pingzhan Industries still have funds? Futures is just for fun, it's still more important to have business. Brother Mingyue, I won't hide it from you. Since the futures market is so good, I'd like to make a killing. Pingzhan Industries development has reached a bottleneck, and it'll be hard for us to expand without more funds. So, I'd like to use my assets as collateral and borrow some money. Pingzhan said. That's a little risky, isn't it? And Mingyue said, Brother Pingzhan, as an old neighbor, let me give you a word of advice. Futures is risky, it's not like you think it is. It's normal for other people to lose money when you make a profit. So, it's about time, why don't you stop? And Mingyue was praying in her heart that Pingzhan wouldn't really give up because of her persuasion. That'd be the end of everything, and they'd have to pay a huge sum of money. Pingzhan's plan would have been for nothing. As the saying goes, riches come with risk. I'd like to take a gamble. Pingzhan said. Brother Pingzhan, are you thinking about it? And Mingyue sighed, this kind of investment is too risky. It's fine to do it once in a while, but in the long term, Brother Mingyue, I've made up my mind. I'm going to do it big this time. Pingzhan said, I hope you won't try to talk me out of it, but support me fully. Sigh, alright, since you've made up your mind, I won't say anything else. And Mingyue sighed again, a little helpless, how big do you want to go? Brother Mingyue, can you lend me some money? Pingzhan said after some hesitation, since your family doesn't want to do business anymore, why don't you support me? Brother Pingzhan, borrow money. Actually, with our relationship, it's not a problem for me to lend you money, but you should also know that I don't have the final say in the family. My elder brother, and Mingri, and my father are watching. And Mingyue said with some difficulty, if I directly take out a sum of money to lend you, then they definitely won't agree. Chapter 1770. Mingyue bro, don't worry, I won't borrow money for nothing. How about this, I'll use all of Pingzhan Industries' properties as collateral, and you can see how much you can give me. What do you think? Pingzhan himself didn't know why he would say something like that, but at this moment, he felt that it was a matter of course, and there was nothing wrong with it. If that's the case. And Mingyue pondered for a moment, then said, I can discuss this with my family, but Brother Pingzhan, I advise you to be careful. After all, to put it bluntly, what if, and I'm saying what if, you lose all your money? Should I keep this business? If I keep it, I'll feel uneasy, and if I don't, I won't be able to get past my family, so. Mingyue bro, since it's a collateral, if the money is gone, the properties will naturally be yours. What's there to hesitate about? Pingzhan interrupted impatiently, say no more, it's decided. Mingyue bro, why are you being so hesitant? Alright, I'll discuss it with my brother, and then I'll give you a definite reply. And Mingyue said. In fact, Mingyue and Mingyue were indeed in charge of House N's business, and the biggest shareholder was their father, Olden. But this time, Mingyue was just trying to trick Pingzhan, and so the so-called discussion was just to trick Pingzhan. Of course, this money would also belong to House N's business, and the reason why Mingyue did this was to leave a good impression in front of Olden, so that Jiang Wen could take over as the head of House N in the future. However, Mingyue still dialed his brother Mingyue's number after hanging up, and he pretended to discuss with him on the phone. And Mingyue's calls were all recorded, and the reason why she did this was just to put on a show. Her son liked Meng Yao, and in order to prevent Meng Yao from holding a grudge against them for taking over House Chu's assets, they needed some evidence to prove House An's innocence. The recordings of An Mingyue and Peng Zhan, as well as the recordings of her discussing with her brother about the loan, were the best evidence. If Meng Yao were to suspect anything, he'd just have to play the recording to prove House An's innocence. This had nothing to do with House An at all. Peng Zhan had done it on his own. He tried to stop him several times, but to no avail. It wasn't Mingyue's fault. Takitra, after putting on a show with An Mingri, and Mingri wasn't in a rush to reply to Peng Zhan. He turned to Jiang Wen and asked, "Jiang Wen, we've made Peng Zhan bankrupt this time. He won't commit suicide, will he? So what if I kill myself?" Jiang Wen said nonchalantly. "If he kills himself, then wouldn't House An be the indirect sinner? The thing between you and Yao Yao?" And Mingyue said worriedly. Meng Yao will have no one to rely on if Peng Zhan dies. It'll be easier for me to win her heart if I show up now. On the other hand, if Peng Zhan doesn't die, I'd be worried that he'll cause trouble for us. Jiang Wen said, "Although the Firewolf's hypnotist is very powerful, and Peng Zhan probably won't be able to figure it out, it's better to be safe than sorry. I'll be more at ease if he's dead." "I see. If that's the case, then I don't have to worry anymore." And Mingyue nodded and picked up her phone, dialing Peng Zhan's number. At the same time, in an underground factory in Songshan, sat a cold-faced young man. His face was filled with violence, unwillingness, anger, and even a hint of regret. "Bro, that Jiang Wen guy is just a little more daring and stupid. That's how he got the support of the Firewolves. You, on the other hand, are smart and cautious. You're not doing as well as him in the Firewolves. It's so unfair." This was Bro's #1 strategist. He was called Chao Zhuge, meaning to surpass Zhuge Liang. And this Bro was Jinda, Jiang Wen's older cousin brother. He was the one in charge of the illegal kidney business in Songshan. He had been doing it for many years without any problems, but Jiang Wen's arrival cut off the business. Although he had to admit that Jiang Wen's monthly income was more than what he had earned in a few years, it was still a one-time business. He couldn't do it again in the future. Looking at his reckless brother getting recognized by the Firewolves, and Jinda really didn't want to accept it. In terms of strategy and intelligence, he wasn't inferior to Jiang Wen. He was also more mature than Jiang Wen. But because he didn't earn as much as Jiang Wen, he didn't get the Firewolves' attention. Looking at the helpers around him, the strongest one was a golden class master. On Jiang Wen's side, there was a mystic, Professor Yin, and a powerful hypnotist. So Jinda didn't want to accept it. After weighing the pros and cons, he decided to start playing the side business and earn money. Of course, the illegal things that could be done in Songshan were all done by Jiang Wen. This was what angered Jinda the most. But he didn't want to go to other cities. After all, Songshan was his old base. He was familiar with everything there was, and he had the advantage of the terrain. And so, after considering all the side businesses, Jinda set his eyes on the thief business. Because of this, he realized that the original thief gangs in Songshan had all disappeared. After all, Jinda had been in the organ trade business for a few years. He knew everyone in the underworld. When he realized that the thief gangs had disappeared, he decided to replace them. He formed a thief gang and started stealing. After all, the only thing that Jiang Wen didn't do was stealing. Of course, if he did it well, the profits would be quite high. Right now, Jinda was just testing the waters. Naturally, he didn't do anything big. He only recruited some helpers and trained some orphans to steal from supermarkets, train stations, and other places. If everything went well, he'd add in some advanced skills like picking doors and sliding locks to steal from companies. Of course, the sudden appearance of a group of people in Songshan would definitely attract attention. It wouldn't be good if something went wrong. And so, in order to cover it up, Njinda had his golden class master lead the orphans to build a stage and perform in the night market. He told the public that it was a circus. This way, they wouldn't have to worry about being questioned. Chapter 1771. He believed that if he did well in this industry, it would be quite a sum of money. But what made Njinda unhappy was that he had a bad start when he first came to Songshan. Not only were his men caught stealing in the supermarket, but this made him very angry. Although there was a saying that horses stumble and humans stumble, it was inevitable to make mistakes in this industry. But the problem was, how could Njinda tolerate it when he just started? It was fine if he was caught by the police, but it was a few nosy youngsters who told him about it. This made Njinda even angrier. Those who obstructed his plan would definitely be punished. "Bro, we've found out the identity of those nosy youngsters." Chao Zhuge received the report from his men and quickly said to Njinda. "Oh. Who did it?" Njinda quickly asked. "There's no news on that Land Rover, but that Audi S5, according to our investigation, often enters and exits the Seaview Bay Villa area. Our men went there to investigate. The owner is called Chu Mengyao, the daughter of Pingzhan Industries chairman." Chao Zhuge said, "As for the others, they must be with her. There's no need to investigate to know who they are. Fuck, is the daughter of Pingzhan Industries so powerful? Find a few brothers and burn her house down. Let her know the consequences of obstructing my plan. Burn them to death." Njinda was actually a ruthless person. Killing and burning was a common thing in his eyes. "Bro, but according to our investigation, Chu Mengyao has already gone on a trip. There's no one at home. Even if we set fire to them, they won't be burned. For rich people like them, burning a house isn't a big loss, right?" Chao Zhuge said. "Gone on a trip." Njinda was stunned, but he said, "Then what should we do? Should we wait for them to come back?" Chao Zhuge was also in a difficult position. After all, their investigation speed couldn't be as fast as the local forces. There was a time difference in the middle, and naturally, Chu Mengyao would be able to escape. Wait for them to come back. It's too late. Njinda was very unhappy. He had a feeling that he couldn't use his power. Chao Zhuge thought for a while and said, "Why don't we take revenge on Pingzhan? There's a saying that goes, the father pays his son's debts. This is enough to make Mengyao suffer. Pingzhan is a famous person in Songshan, wouldn't it be troublesome to touch him?" Njinda had more to think about. "I'll discuss this with my father first. After all, Pingzhan is a famous person, there wouldn't be a problem if he had father's support." "That's true, there's no harm in being careful. Although it was Pingzhan's daughter who provoked us first, we still need Mr. An's permission to make a move on her," Chao Zhuge said. Njinda called his father, and Mingri, and told him what he wanted to do. "Dad, I just came to Songshan. If I don't do something about this, Jiang Wen might look down on me. It'll be bad for my position in the Firewolves gang." "What? You want to touch Pingzhan?" And Mingri didn't ask much about what he said and directly refused, "No, absolutely not." "Why?" Njinda wasn't happy. Although Pingzhan Industries used to be second uncle's neighbor and had some business dealings with him, we have nothing to do with him. What's wrong with touching him? No means no. And Mingri said firmly, "At least not now. Jiang Wen is doing something big, and if he's done, all of Pingzhan Industries' properties will be in our hands. Although I know you might not be happy about it, I can't do anything about it. Who asked this to be beneficial to our business? Just bear with it for now. When Pingzhan Industries' properties are under our name, it'll be fine even if you kill Pingzhan, but before this is done, you can't do anything." "All right then." Njinda was a little helpless. but since his father said it so decisively, he couldn't go against it. He only felt even more pissed off. What right did Jiang Wen have to do big things? Why could he get all of Pingjian Industries' properties under Hao Sen's name? Why did even his father have to support Jiang Wen? This anger turned into a seed of hatred, deeply buried in Jian's heart. He swore that once this was over, he'd kill Pingjian to appease the hatred in his heart. On Pingjian Industries' side, Pingjian finally signed a loan agreement with Mingwei with his shares, as well as Lin Yi's shares, as well as all of his personal properties. He used all of his and Lin Yi's shares as collateral, as well as all of Pingjian Industries' properties. Man, Pingjian bro, I know there's no point in trying to persuade you, but forget it, I won't say it. And Mingwei didn't seem to mind at all as he handed the shares and property certificates to the accountant beside him. We have a general understanding of these properties, and I've talked to my brother about it. He's agreed to transfer 3 billion from the head office for you after consulting with our father. Your properties are pretty much worth this amount. What do you think, Pingjian bro? 3 billion. That much? Pingjian was a little surprised. These properties and shares were definitely worth more than 3 billion, but they couldn't be mortgaged according to the total value. And Mingyue's price was quite reasonable. We're old friends. Since it's a loan, naturally I won't take advantage of you. Actually, if I was the one in charge of Hausen, I'd still lend you the money without any collateral. The collateral is just a formality. And Mingyue said. If that's the case, then thank you, Mingyue bro. Pingjian was very excited. He estimated how many times the 3 billion would increase with the money he'd earned from the futures market. His business would probably be able to rise to the next level by then, right? The accountant and Mingyue brought was also a skilled one, and it didn't take long for them to finish their examination. They nodded to indicate that there were no problems, and Mingyue signed the loan agreement with Pingjian. When Mingyue received the loan agreement with Pingjian's signature, an almost undetectable smile appeared on his face. Pingjian, on the other hand, had a smile on his face. Chapter 1772. Of course, Lin Yi and Meng Yao, who were far away in the West Star village, didn't know about this. At this moment, Lin Yi had just followed the instructions on the prescription and prepared the medicinal liquid. After taking a portion, he jumped into the basin of black liquid on the ground. Immediately, a bone-piercing chill came from Lin Yi's skin, and Lin Yi couldn't help but shiver. Hiss. Lin Yi didn't expect this medicinal liquid to have such an unexpected effect. There wasn't any cooling medicine like menthol in the medicinal liquid, but when mixed together, it was so cold that Lin Yi almost jumped out of the water. Fortunately, Lin Yi knew that this was a test he had to go through before practicing the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. He could only grit his teeth and bear with it. If he accidentally spilled the medicinal liquid that he took so much effort to make, then it would be very difficult to make another basin of the same liquid. Many of the herbs here were very rare in Old Lin's herb garden, and after using them this time, the rest couldn't be harvested anymore. They had to be kept as seeds, so if he wanted to make another basin of medicinal liquid, he would have to wait until next year. Naturally, Lin Yi didn't dare be careless. Phew. The medicinal liquid that Lin Yi took seemed to have a cooling effect as well. Not only did it not get rid of the chill in his body, but it also made Lin Yi feel that the chill was getting stronger and stronger. Lin Yi really couldn't take it anymore and wanted to use the art of dragon mastery to resist it. However, Lin Yi was still very clear-headed. He knew that when this medicinal liquid was tempering his body, he couldn't use his qi to resist it. Otherwise, the tempering would fail, and it wouldn't achieve the desired effect. So, there was no other way for Lin Yi to silently endure the chill. Luckily, the time Lin Yi was soaked in Old Lin's medicine wasn't that much better than now. He'd been able to grit his teeth and endure it, and while it was more painful now, it was still bearable. He thought of Xiao Xiao, back in those final days, when her body had been freezing cold every day, and she'd made it through. How could he be worse than her? Therefore, Lin Yi clenched his teeth, closed his eyes, and sat quietly in the basin, waiting for the appointed time to arrive. According to the body tempering prescription, he had to soak for 24 hours before the body tempering could be completed, and Lin Yi didn't dare to be negligent. Fortunately, the duration of the body tempering this time was relatively short. It was not as long as the initial foundation establishment stage. At that time, old Lin practically had Lin Yi soak in medicinal liquid every day. Of course, the degree of pain was also different. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, half a day had passed by Lin Yi. To Lin Yi's surprise, the color of the medicinal liquid in the basin had become a lot lighter, and as time passed, it was getting lighter and lighter. This miraculous phenomenon made Lin Yi click his tongue in wonder. When he was at foundation establishment, the medicinal liquid that Lin Yi soaked in every day didn't change much. Could it be that this time, the medicinal liquid had been completely absorbed by his body? In the blink of an eye, 12 hours had passed. What made Lin Yi even more shocked was that the medicinal liquid in the basin had become transparent. In other words, the medicinal liquid had been completely absorbed by him. However, it had only been 12 hours, and it hadn't reached the stipulated 24 hours. Therefore, even if the medicinal liquid had been completely absorbed, Lin Yi still sat in the basin motionlessly, afraid that he would make a mistake. However, in Lin Yi's body, he could no longer feel the initial coldness. Instead, it was a normal feeling, as if this water was ordinary clean water used for bathing. There was nothing special about it. But even so, Lin Yi still didn't leave the basin. As expected, what happened next proved that Lin Yi's decision was correct. Because as time passed, the color of the water in the basin appeared again. From the initial transparent color, it became a light yellowish brown, and then the color began to become darker and darker. In the end, the entire basin turned into the color of ink, which surprised Lin Yi greatly. At this moment, Lin Yi roughly understood the principle of the body tempering medicinal liquid. In his heart, he thought that he was lucky that he didn't come out of the basin after 12 hours. If he did, he would have definitely failed. This body tempering medicinal liquid had probably been absorbed into his body during the previous 12 hours. Therefore, Lin Yi felt a bone-chilling coldness. And in the following 12 hours, it should be the detoxification period. The medicinal liquid had all the impurities in the body out of the body. Therefore, not only did Lin Yi not feel the previous coldness, but he also felt extremely comfortable. His entire body seemed to have become a lot more refreshed. This was probably similar to the effect brought about by the second layer of the stone door in the cave. The stone door completed the refinement of the energy in the body, while the medicinal liquid completed the refinement of the body's constitution. The two methods had the same effect, but neither could be dispensed with. Finally, 24 hours had passed. The entire basin of water had turned into the color of black ink. There was even a fishy smell. It was obviously the impurities that had been expelled from the body. And when the time was up, Lin Yi immediately jumped out of the basin and quickly used the water in the basin to wipe his body. After everything was done, Lin Yi put on his clothes and carried the basin out of his room. Just as Lin Yi expected, he saw old Lin's figure in the yard again. As usual, he was sitting on the reclining chair, quietly guarding Lin Yi's door. Seeing that Lin Yi had successfully walked out of the room, old Lin's face revealed a slightly tired smile. "Little Yi, it's a success. It's a success." Lin Yi placed the basin in his hands on the ground and said, "It's all black water, why are you showing it to me? Aren't you going to pour it out? It stinks." Old man Lin waved his hand, then quickly stood up and said, "All right, the preliminary work is done, this old man should also rest. If you want to sleep, then sleep. If you want to continue cultivating, then cultivate. With that, old Lin turned around and walked back to his room without looking back. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and poured away the basin in his hands. Because it was midnight, Tang Yun and the others were resting. Lin Yi didn't want to disturb them. Plus, now that he'd completed his body refinement, he couldn't wait to practice the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. He'd been looking forward to it for a long time. Once he finished the second stage, he'd be able to enter the cave and open the third stone door. Chapter 1773. He carefully took out the handwritten copy of the second stage of the art of dragon mastery and started reading it in his mind. He kept the original copy for safekeeping. He wouldn't carry something as important as this around with him. The wooden box this time was hidden in a secret compartment under his bed, along with the one from the first time. The second stage of the art of dragon mastery, White Crane. In fact, Lin Yi had already recited the second stage of the art of dragon mastery 1,000 times. He had already memorized it by heart. He took it out this time because he was afraid that there would be a problem. However, the inner force mantras weren't like memorizing words. Once he understood the meaning of the mantra, he wouldn't need to read the mantra every time he practiced. This time, Lin Yi was smarter. He didn't practice like the first time he got the art of dragon mastery. Instead, he entered the space in the jade pendant. Practicing here was the fastest way to progress. Kid Lin, it seems like you've finished your body refinement. Although Jiao Yazi couldn't see what Lin Yi was doing in the outside world, he could see some clues from the changes in Lin Yi's body. Only when Lin Yi established a connection with the space in the jade pendant would Jiao Yazi be aware of what was happening outside. Otherwise, it would be awkward for Lin Yi and Tang Yun to be seen by a soul. It's done. Lin Yi nodded solemnly. I'm ready to start practicing the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. Don't you want to rest for a few days before practicing? Jiao Yazi shook his head when he saw Lin Yi's anxious look. It seems like the past 10 years haven't polished your temperament. Polish my temperament. Lin Yi smiled bitterly when he heard Jiao Yazi's words. I didn't know about the space in the jade pendant before. It was only this year that I completed the first stage of the art of dragon mastery and successfully entered the second stage, right? It's been 10 years and I just succeeded. How can I not be anxious? Furthermore, something that could have been completed in 5 years has taken me 10 years. Now, it's equivalent to me entering the cave 5 years late. My mental cultivation method and strength are already out of sync. I didn't get a martial skill from the cave, but I got a supplementary mental cultivation method that seems to be used to build the foundation for practicing martial skills. Tell me, how can I not be anxious? Jiao Yazi was stunned when he heard Lin Yi's explanation. He shook his head helplessly. You're right. But then again, hard work is also a good thing. You just have to do it step by step. More haste, less speed. I understand. Lin Yi said. Jiao Lao, don't worry. I'll practice in the space in the jade pendant. With your supervision and guidance, there won't be any problems. Jiao Lao nodded after hearing Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi was right. The cultivation of the art of dragon mastery and the cultivation of strength were two different methods. The art of dragon mastery didn't require frequent breakthroughs. There was only one barrier for each stage, unlike the outside world where there would be multiple barriers for each stage. Therefore, the cultivation of the art of dragon mastery naturally couldn't be like Lin Yi and take the risk of compressing qi to break through. It could only be accumulated slowly and there wouldn't be any major problems. Seeing that Jiao Lao didn't say anything, Lin Yi also didn't say anything. He began to circulate the art of dragon mastery in his body according to the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. Suddenly, the energy in the space in the jade pendant seemed to be gathered by an invisible net. It quickly rushed towards Lin Yi's side. The speed of gathering was even faster than when Lin Yi broke through. Lin Yi couldn't help but be shocked. He didn't expect the second stage of the art of dragon mastery to have such a huge effect. Of course, Lin Yi didn't stop his cultivation because of the strange phenomenon. Zhao Yazi sat far away and didn't seem to have any special expression. This meant that the strange phenomenon in front of him was normal. Otherwise, Zhao Yazi would have said something long ago. In the next moment, Lin Yi felt all the acupoints in his body suddenly open. The energy that was gathered in the space in the jade pendant also quickly flowed through Lin Yi's acupoints and into Lin Yi's body. However, what surprised Lin Yi was that after the energy entered his acupoints, it didn't seem to be absorbed by his meridians. Instead, it directly entered his body. This feeling was similar to when he first started cultivating the first stage of the art of dragon mastery 10 years ago. At that time, when he first started cultivating, his meridians couldn't store energy. After the qi entered his body, it turned to refine his body. But this was a process that every spiritual practitioner had to go through at the very beginning. Lin Yi had done some research after that, and knew that this phenomenon was called foundation building. Only with a strong foundation could one accumulate energy in the meridians. However, a second foundation building like this was something Lin Yi had never heard of. This was because Lin Yi had already completed the foundation building stage. This art of dragon mastery was giving him another foundation building. Lin Yi could understand that the speed of foundation building was faster. After all, it was different from when he was cultivating in the outside world. The outside world's spiritual energy was sparse, so it couldn't suddenly gather energy. However, the energy in the space in the jade pendant was endless. Naturally, the speed of foundation building was much faster than in the outside world. Before you started cultivating the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, you tempered your body. Therefore, you have to go through the second foundation building. This is normal. Don't worry, don't resist it. Zhao Yazi's voice sounded slowly. Lin Yi's heart suddenly relaxed. When Lin Yi's heart relaxed, the speed of his cultivation suddenly became faster. What Lin Yi didn't know was that cultivation was closely related to one's state of mind. The so-called inner demons in the process of cultivation were like this. However, in Lin Yi's heart, he didn't have any obsessions or burdens. Therefore, the influence of inner demons on him was negligible. Of course, in the space in the jade pendant, a moment of relaxation changed the speed of cultivation. In fact, it was also a kind of undoing the knot in his heart. Lin Yi's body trembled slightly. He could only feel the endless energy in the space in the jade pendant pouring into his body like a tide. His body was like a bottomless pit. Chapter 1774. With Lin Yi as the center, more and more pure energy gathered in the space of the jade pendant, waiting to enter Lin Yi's body. If Lin Yi thought about it carefully, he did have this feeling 10 years ago. However, the process was slow at that time. It took him 2 years to build his foundation because the spiritual energy in the outside world was too sparse. But now, Lin Yi seemed to feel that he would only need a day to build his second layer of foundation. Perhaps, he wouldn't even need a day. Gradually, Lin Yi could even feel the changes in his body. The muscles in his body seemed to have become tighter, his bones became harder, and his meridians became tougher and thicker. It was a very enjoyable feeling, and Lin Yi just quietly immersed himself in it like that. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. The energy around Lin Yi's body wasn't as dense as before. It was getting thinner and thinner, and the speed at which Lin Yi's body was absorbing the energy had also slowed down. However, the comfortable feeling from before gradually disappeared. Replacing it was a burning sensation all over his body. At the beginning, Lin Yi didn't pay much attention to it. He thought that this was a necessary step in building his foundation. But as this burning sensation grew stronger, Lin Yi's body also showed an unnatural red flush. He even seemed to smell the burning smell of his clothes. Lin Yi's body became hotter and hotter. In just a moment, it became boiling hot. Lin Yi's clothes also turned into ashes. White smoke was already coming out of Lin Yi's forehead, as if it was evaporating. Zhao Yazi, who was sitting quietly at the side, suddenly opened his eyes in disbelief. He looked at Lin Yi and immediately shouted, "Little Lin, stop, something's wrong." "What?" "Something's wrong." Lin Yi was stunned. The speed of the art of dragon mastery in his body also changed. Because it was his first time practicing the second layer, Lin Yi was suddenly interrupted and made a mistake. The original direction of the meridians also deviated a little. As a result, not only did it not stop, but it also caused the vital energy in his body to flow in reverse. And at this moment, Lin Yi's body also became completely red, like a red-hot coal. Zhao Yazi saw Lin Yi's situation and secretly regretted it. It was a taboo to be disturbed during training, especially for someone like Lin Yi, who was only practicing the second stage of the art of dragon mastery for the first time. He wasn't very familiar with it, and if he were to really be disturbed, he'd go berserk. However, it was too late to regret now. Because, in Zhao Yazi's eyes, Lin Yi had already gone berserk. Previously, Lin Yi's cultivation went wrong. In the original Zhao Yazi's memory, there was no such situation. In other words, after Lin Yi absorbed the vital energy and completed the foundation building, this situation should not have happened. However, it happened to Lin Yi. Therefore, Zhao Yazi hurriedly called for a stop. Who would have thought that not only did this not save Lin Yi, but it also caused Lin Yi to go berserk, and Zhao Yazi's words also became the last sentence that Lin Yi heard at the last moment. Then, Lin Yi's body suddenly tilted and fell to the ground, motionless. However, the art of dragon mastery in his body was still circulating, continuously absorbing the pure energy in the jade, causing Lin Yi's body to be like a piece of burning charcoal, but the temperature was still high. Zhao Yazi looked at Lin Yi's situation with a look of regret and hatred. He regretted reminding Lin Yi. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't have gone berserk so quickly. However, from another perspective, if he didn't remind Lin Yi, wouldn't Lin Yi still go berserk? Thinking of this, the guilt in Zhao Yazi's heart lessened a little, but now he was worried about Lin Yi's safety and didn't know how to save him. One should know that it was Lin Yi's first time fainting in the space of the jade. In the past, no matter how serious Lin Yi's injuries were, as long as he wasn't dead, he could enter the space of the jade to heal his injuries. However, cultivation berserk was different from injuries. Cultivation berserk caused Lin Yi to be unconscious in the space of the jade. This made Zhao Yazi anxious, but he didn't know where to start. He was just a phantom and didn't have any actual abilities. Being able to speak and having some memories was completely set up by the creator of the jade pendant. As for things that weren't set up, he definitely wouldn't be able to make them. So at this time, Zhao Yazi really didn't know what to do. He could only hope that the people around Lin Yi could find Lin Yi as soon as possible and think of a way to wake him up. Knowing that it was useless to be anxious, Zhao Yazi calmed down and thought about what went wrong with Lin Yi. How did he suddenly go berserk? One should know that according to Zhao Yazi's current memory, it was impossible for Lin Yi to have such a strange phenomenon. Even if this strange phenomenon appeared, it was definitely not a coincidence. There must be something wrong. Thinking of this, Zhao Yazi deeply frowned. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. Old Lin looked at the closed door of Lin Yi's room strangely. He couldn't help but be suspicious. Tang Yun, have you seen Lin Yi? He hasn't come out yet. Nope. His room door was closed the whole day. Tang Yun nodded and said with certainty. Because of the rain, the three of them didn't go out. Instead, old Lin went out to treat a patient and only came back in the evening. Something's not right. Old Lin frowned. He knew Lin Yi's habits. In the past, when Lin Yi practiced, no matter what, he would come out every day to eat something. He had never stayed in his room for 2 days in a row. Even when Lin Yi had just obtained the first stage of the art of dragon mastery, he wasn't so obsessed with practicing that he didn't leave his room. That was why old Lin felt that something was wrong. Could it be that something went wrong? Tang Yun's face changed. Meng Yao and Yushu also looked at old Lin nervously. When we were in Songshan, did Lil Yi have any problems after practicing for so long? Old Lin pondered and asked. Chapter 1775. Even when Lin Yi was in a hurry to break through to the Earth class, he would still come out to talk to the girls and eat with them. However, he would never stay in his room for 2 days. Unless it was like the time when he was injured and couldn't come out, he wouldn't come out. After listening to Ming Yao's words, old Lin's expression became even more serious. Since it happened so suddenly, there must be something wrong. Could it be that Lin Yi encountered some trouble? Then little Yi might have encountered some trouble. Although old Lin wasn't sure, he was still worried. I'll go take a look. We have to go too. Tang Yun said subconsciously. Okay, then you guys follow behind me and don't make any noise. If he really forgot the time, then we shouldn't disturb him. Old Lin reminded. Tang Yun and the others quickly nodded to show that they understood. Old Lin made his way to Lin Yi's room quietly, pushing the door open with a slight push. Lin Yi never locked the door when he cultivated at home. There were no outsiders here, so he wasn't afraid of anyone disturbing him. Initially, old Lin wanted to be careful to not make any noise when he pushed the door open, but when he saw the scene inside the room, he was shocked. He quickly pushed the door open and rushed in, exclaiming, "Little Yi, what's wrong?" Lin Yi's entire body was red as he laid on the ground. His clothes and the wooden bed had already turned into ashes, and Lin Yi was lying in a pile of ashes. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Shu heard old Lin scream and rushed into the room, but when they saw that Lin Yi was naked, they immediately blushed. However, it was only a blush, and they didn't care about being shy because the color of Lin Yi's body was similar to a cooked crab. That wasn't all. When they got close to Lin Yi, they felt like they were being burned. Grandpa Lin, what happened to Lin Yi? Tang Yun didn't care about her shyness and asked urgently. At this moment, Lin Dongfang also frowned. Obviously, he didn't know what happened and why Lin Yi suddenly became like this. I'm not sure, but something must have happened. Old Lin said with a serious expression. This was clearly not cultivation, and cultivation couldn't be done by lying on the ground without moving. Something must have gone wrong. After saying that, old Lin reached out his hand and touched Lin Yi's body. Even though old Lin had an indestructible body, Lin Yi's heat was enough to make him choke. Fortunately, he wasn't injured, but if it was someone else, they would have been burned. Old Lin quickly retracted his hand after touching Lin Yi's body, and his expression became even more serious. Little Yi, did you have a similar situation before? No, he didn't, Tang Yun recalled and shook her head decisively. But he didn't, but I think Shu did. Meng Yao suddenly remembered the time when Shu suddenly had a fever. It was similar to Lin Yi's current situation. Her whole body was red, as if she was cooked, and it was scary. The only difference was that Shu was awake at that time, but Lin Yi was unconscious. Oh. You're talking about that time when he was poisoned. Old Lin also remembered that Lin Yi called him and told him about Shu. Yes, that time when he was poisoned, but the situation was different, Meng Yao nodded. Shu had a fever for no reason, and she said that it was a problem since she was young, but Lin Yi's. It should be a problem after his cultivation. Old Lin nodded approvingly. It seemed that Meng Yao was quite smart, being able to see the difference in an instant. Before, when Shu had this kind of situation, how did you solve it? Old Lin asked. I took a medicine to suppress it. Yushu said, but Shield Bro should be different. Yushu was a family member, and she knew that her body's condition was different from Lin Yi's. So, in order to not let Grandpa Lin misunderstand, she quickly explained. Indeed, it should be different. Old Lin risked being scalded again to test Lin Yi's breathing. He realized that Lin Yi's breathing was normal, so he calmed down and said, maybe something went wrong during his cultivation. You guys stay here, I'll go make a call. Old Lin took a deep breath. All these years, he hadn't contacted that person, but this time, for Lin Yi, he had to contact him. Because the situation Lin Yi was in right now was beyond his ability to solve. It wasn't something he could solve. Okay. Tang Yun agreed without hesitation. Although it was a little embarrassing, Lin Yi's life was in danger. Why would she care about anything else? Moreover, she and Lin Yi were already boyfriend and girlfriend. Although their relationship hadn't reached that stage yet, it was better to take a look in advance and gain experience. That way, she wouldn't be too shy and surprised in the future. Yushu, on the other hand, frowned slightly. She reached out her hand curiously and touched Lin Yi's body. Shu, be careful, don't touch him. Meng Yao was shocked. If this heat touched a normal person's body, wouldn't they be scalded to death? Before, Lin Dongfang had his own secret technique. Although he didn't seem to be injured, he still gritted his teeth from the heat. How could Shu compare? However, Meng Yao's words were still a step too late. Yushu's hand had already touched Lin Yi's shoulder. Both Meng Yao and Tang Yun were shocked. The moment Yushu's hand touched Lin Yi's body, there was a "chi-la" sound. Yushu just came in from outside. It was raining outside, so it was inevitable that there was some water vapor on her hand. This meant that the water vapor was evaporated in an instant. It was very scary. However, just when Tang Yun and Meng Yao were worried for Yushu, something strange happened. Yushu didn't seem to feel the heat from Lin Yi's body at all. Her expression didn't change at all. In the next moment, the red color on Lin Yi's body seemed to weaken a lot. Yushu's body suddenly became bright red. Her hand that touched Lin Yi's shoulder was like a conductor, transferring the heat from Lin Yi's body into her body. Chapter 1776. However, the color of Lin Yi's body had returned to normal. Although it was still hot, it was much better than before. It was as if half of Lin Yi's body heat had been taken away by Yushu. This magical phenomenon stunned Meng Yao and Tang Yun. What kind of kung fu was Yushu using? Why did it look like a superpower? Shu, you. Are you okay? Meng Yao asked subconsciously. It's very, very hot, but I can handle it. Yushu said. I think that I wanted to help Shield Bro take some of the heat. That way, he'll feel better. How magical. Tang Yun looked at the blushing Yushu. She was very surprised. Yushu didn't seem to be afraid of the heat. But that wasn't right. She was someone who was afraid of the heat the most. Whenever it was summer, she would always ask for the heat, asking Tang Yun to help her dissipate the heat. Or more accurately, Yushu was someone who could withstand the heat the most. Although she was afraid of the heat, it wasn't dangerous to her. If it were someone else, they would have died long ago. This was similar to Xiao Xiao. Although Xiao Xiao was someone who was afraid of the cold the most, she was also the one who could withstand it. She was frozen in the ice coffin and nothing happened to her. Normal people wouldn't be able to handle it, right? Just as they were studying Yushu's miraculous phenomenon, old Lin went back to his room and quickly took out a small wooden box from under his bed. If Lin Yi were here, he'd be shocked to find that this box was exactly the same as the one he got from the cave. Old Lin quickly opened the small box. Inside the box, there were no martial arts manuals, nor were there any heaven-defying divine weapons. There was only an exquisitely crafted communication device. Old Lin didn't hesitate and pressed the button on the communicator. Old Lin didn't know if he'd get a response, but he had to do it now. Things had developed beyond his expectations. He himself was a miracle doctor. When he saw Lin Yi's condition, he could immediately conclude that the strange phenomenon on Lin Yi's body was not because he was sick, nor was it because he had been poisoned by some kind of fire poison. It was a strange phenomenon caused by something. But old Lin didn't understand the art of dragon mastery at all, and had never heard of it. The only thing he could do was to contact that person. Hopefully, this communicator is still working. Hopefully, I can contact that person. Otherwise, Lin Yi will really be in danger. Fortunately, there didn't seem to be any problems with the communicator. After old Lin pressed the button on the communicator, the indicator light on the communicator flashed a few times, as if it was connecting to something. After a while, the communication device connected smoothly, and a deep voice came from the other side. "Mr. Lin. Are you in trouble? It's Lil Yi." After he opened the stone door to the second level of the cave, he started practicing the second level of the art of dragon mastery, but after that, his body became extremely hot. Old Lin quickly explained Lin Yi's situation. "That's not right. How is that possible? How could this happen?" The person on the other side of the communicator was also clearly taken aback. It was a little unbelievable. "Right, aren't you a divine fortune teller? Why didn't you predict the problem this time?" Old Lin asked. "What happened to Lil Yi isn't something I can predict." The person on the other side of the communicator smiled bitterly. "I made a mistake last time when I tried to predict his situation. His situation can't be predicted with common sense, then what do we do now?" Old Lin asked. "I'll be right there. Wait for me," the person on the other side of the communicator said. "Can you leave that side? Is there no problem?" Old Lin asked. "I stayed here and didn't go to that place with Master back then, because..." The person on the other side of the communicator paused. "Let's not talk about this, I'll be right there." "Okay, I'll wait for you." Old Lin breathed a sigh of relief. With this person's help, the problem might be solved. After the call, old Lin quickly returned to Lin Yi's room and saw a very magical scene in front of him. "Shu, you..." Old Lin looked at Yushu in shock. You can conduct heat." "Yeah, I think this way, Shield Bro can relax a little. Otherwise, I'm afraid he'll die from the heat." Yushu felt that she could share some of the heat with Lin Yi. This way, Lin Yi's problem wouldn't worsen. "That's good." Old Lin was surprised, but he still nodded. Since Shu had such a special body, he'd let her take some of the heat for now. Old Lin, on the other hand, didn't say anything about Yushu, but he was getting more and more curious. Lin Yi mentioned that Shu's body seemed to be poisoned by fire poison. However, according to old Lin's observation, Shu seemed to be fine. Only now did old Lin realize that he was wrong. Moreover, Shu's body definitely wasn't fire poison. How could a person with fire poison share the heat for others? If it was in such a hot environment, she would have died from the fire poison. How could she be fine? But as weird as it was, old Lin wasn't in the mood to think about Yushu's situation. Lin Yi's problem was more important, and while that person had agreed to come, West Star Village was a long way away, and old Lin's heart was burning with anxiety. Yawn. Yushu yawned. She was a little sleepy. It was already late at night, but she was still sitting beside Lin Yi. Her hand touched Lin Yi's shoulder, not daring to move away. On Lin Yi's body, old Lin also covered him with a thin blanket. Because Shu was helping to share most of the heat, the thin blanket wasn't burnt. Shu, if you are tired, you should rest. Old Lin looked at Shu's sleepy face and didn't want her to continue sharing the burden. After all, he could see that although Shu's life wasn't in danger, it was still very painful. I can't. If I go to sleep, what if Shield Bro gets burned? Yushu shook her head. How about this? Shu, you hug Lin Yi to sleep, can't you? Tang Yun said after some hesitation. Although she didn't feel comfortable with this decision, for the sake of Lin Yi's safety, she had to take advantage of Shu. One had to know that Tang Yun had never slept so intimately with Lin Yi before. However, Lin Yi's condition couldn't be delayed. If Shu left and Lin Yi really had a fever, Tang Yun would regret it. Chapter 1777. I don't think that's a good idea. Meng Yao felt that it wasn't appropriate to let Shu hug Lin Yi to sleep. If they really slept together, it would be hard to tell the relationship between Lin Yi and Shu in the future. Shu would basically be her mistress. Okay. Just keep it a secret for me. Don't tell Shield Bro. Yushu, on the other hand, agreed right away. She fell down beside Lin Yi and hugged him, falling asleep the next moment. She was really too sleepy, and she had to share some of the heat with Lin Yi. She couldn't afford to relax at all, but now that she was hugging Lin Yi, she felt much more at ease. She could just rest without any worries. Tang Yun and Meng Yao looked at each other helplessly. Tang Yun was helpless because the benefits that belonged to her were taken away by someone else. Meng Yao was helpless because Shu seemed to be sinking deeper and deeper. Although Tang Yun didn't reject her, she didn't make any promises. Meng Yao was thinking more about Shu's future. What should she do? Let's get some rest, everyone. The friend I'm looking for might only arrive tomorrow. He might be able to solve the problem we're facing. Old Lin said that, but he couldn't help but show a trace of worry in his eyes. Even that person said that he didn't foresee this calamity, and that this situation wasn't likely to happen. It seemed that things had already exceeded their expectations. But the only thing they could do now was to wait. The night passed. The next morning, Old Lin woke up early. Tang Yun and Meng Yao also woke up. It was obvious that they didn't sleep well. They were all worried about Lin Yi. Grandpa Lin, good morning, Meng Yao and Tang Yun greeted Old Lin. You guys are early as well. Old Lin looked at the dark circles under Tang Yun and Meng Yao's eyes and shook his head. You two didn't sleep well, did you? How can we sleep well at a time like this? Tang Yun and Meng Yao said, we're all worried about Lin Yi. Old Lin nodded, and the three walked into Lin Yi's room. They were speechless when they saw Yushu sleeping soundly on top of Lin Yi's body. Shu must have had the best sleep of the night. Looks like Shu is the one sleeping the best. Meng Yao said helplessly. Forget it, let's not disturb her. She's tired enough. Let's just let them rest and wake them up when Grandpa Lin's reinforcements arrive. Old Man Lin agreed. Yes, it's good enough to see that they're fine. Now, we can only wait for that friend of mine to come. Although Tang Yun and Meng Yao didn't enter the room to disturb Lin Yi and Yushu, they didn't have the mood to do anything else. Old Lin laid down on the chair in the courtyard, waiting for that person to come. Tang Yun and Meng Yao sat quietly on the side. No one was in the mood to talk. In the blink of an eye, the entire morning had passed. Just when Tang Yun and Meng Yao were getting anxious, they saw a silhouette dashing towards them from afar. This situation made Tang Yun and Meng Yao jump in fright. A trace of excitement flashed in old Lin's eyes as he suddenly stood up from the chair. The figure was getting closer and closer, and in the instant that old Lin stood up, it had already reached the entrance of the small courtyard. Meng Yao and Tang Yun looked at each other in shock. The silhouette's speed was incomparably fast. When they first saw the silhouette, it was only a blurry image 300 to 400 meters away, but the moment old Lin stood up, it was already right in front of them. However, this person was dressed like a Taoist, and he had a sage-like aura. Tang Yun and Meng Yao admired him. Just from this person's speed, they could tell that he wasn't an ordinary person. "Old friend, you're finally here." Old Lin let out a sigh of relief. A relaxed smile appeared on his face. "I didn't expect you to be this fast." "Thank you. Mr. Lin, when the master left, he told me to." The Taoist paused and continued. "Besides, you are the master's friend, so you don't have to be so courteous. Let's see how little E is first." "Okay." Old Lin didn't say much. He knew the identity of the person in front of him, so old Lin couldn't do anything about it. However, if Lin Yi wasn't unconscious right now, he would definitely be shocked if he saw this Taoist. This was because this Taoist was the guy who chased after Lin Yi's car, the one who called himself Mo Kongwen. At that time, this guy's actions scared Lin Yi out of his wits. He didn't think that someone could run faster than a car. Even though Lin Yi was an Earth class now, he didn't dare to say that he had such speed. However, it seemed like Mo Kongwen didn't use his full strength at that time. Mo Kongwen followed old Lin into Lin Yi's room. As soon as he entered, he saw that Lin Yi was hugging a girl and sleeping. He had a strange expression on his face. Meng Yao was a little embarrassed as well. At this moment, Lin Yi and Shu were hugging too tightly. It was hard to avoid misunderstandings. She quickly walked up and patted Shu. "Shu, wake up." Hiss. Ah. When Meng Yao's hand touched Shu's body, she suddenly shrunk back. Shu's body was frighteningly hot, just like the last time she acted up. Meng Yao was careless, and a few blisters appeared on her hand. At this time, Mo Kongwen finally noticed that something was wrong. He shook his head in embarrassment and said, "I'm sorry, it was a misunderstanding before. But now it seems like it's the two of them. Both of them are burning up." However, what happened next shattered Mo Kongwen's guesses. Before Meng Yao could explain, Yushu was woken up by Meng Yao's push and shout. She opened her eyes in a daze and climbed up from the ground. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" Yushu, in her unconscious state, naturally left Lin Yi's body. Lin Yi's body temperature rose to the extreme in an instant. The thin blanket covering his body turned into ashes at this moment. Mo Kongwen understood the situation and looked at Yushu in surprise. She can actually share the heat with Lin Yi. Chapter 1778. "Oh, thank you." Meng Yao took the bottle and realized that there was nothing on Lin Yi's body. She couldn't care less about her shyness anymore. "Shu, why did you let go?" "Ah. Oh." Yushu woke up as well and quickly put her hand on Lin Yi's body. Lin Yi's body color, on the other hand, lightened a lot. Shu's skin, on the other hand, turned from white to red. "Shu, the people Grandpa Lin invited are here. Help him check on Lin Yi and see what's wrong," Tang Yun said to Yushu. "Oh, okay." Yushu nodded, but her eyes were sneaking glances at Lin Yi's body, regretting it. Did she fall asleep yesterday? Man, it'd be great if something happened between her and Shield Bro. She'd become the real wife. Even Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao couldn't compare to her. But she was tired and sleepy yesterday, so she fell asleep the moment she fell asleep. Naturally, nothing would happen. "Shu, what are you looking at?" Meng Yao saw Yushu's little action and scolded her. "Oh. No." Yushu, naturally, wouldn't admit it. "I saw it all, why won't you admit it?" Meng Yao glared at her. "Then why didn't you let me see it if you saw it?" Yushu asked back. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. "I saw it by accident, and you saw it on purpose. How could it be the same? Plus, my eyes didn't look at those parts." Meng Yao couldn't help but be curious at that thought. Her eyes naturally drifted over to Lin Yi's body. "Oh. Yao Yao, you're such a pervert, I caught you in the act too," Yushu said. Meng Yao was about to explode. She wanted to tear Yushu's mouth off, but she stopped herself when she remembered Yushu's body temperature. She shook her head helplessly. "Don't talk nonsense, I didn't." "Alright, let's just let this grandpa take a look at Lin Yi's condition first." Tang Yun didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Meng Yao and Yushu. She didn't even say anything about Lin Yi being looked at, and they were already unhappy about it. While Tang Yun was talking, Mo Kongwen had already walked in front of Lin Yi. He raised his hand and touched Lin Yi's meridians. Then, he frowned and exclaimed in surprise, "Huh? How is it?" Old Lin quickly asked. "Little girl, move your hand away, let me have a look," Kongwen said to Yushu. "I'll take my hands off, it's hot. Don't burn yourself," Yushu reminded, but let go of her hands anyway. The moment Yushu's hands left, Lin Yi's body turned red again, but Kongwen didn't seem to mind at all. His hand was still on Lin Yi's meridians, and he didn't show any signs of moving away. His expression didn't change at all, as if he couldn't feel the heat from Lin Yi's body. Meng Yao and Tang Yun were shocked, but old Lin, on the other hand, didn't seem to be surprised at all. It was as if he didn't feel the heat from Lin Yi's body at all. Something must have gone wrong with his training, and he's gone mad. After a while, Kongwen said, "The qi in his body is in a mess, but there are no problems with his meridians. This is the sign of going mad." Going mad? Although old man Lin had thought about this before, he still found it strange when Mo Kongwen said it out loud. Why would he go berserk? Wasn't the art of dragon mastery left behind by that person? How could something go wrong? "I don't know the reason yet, but I'm sure that there's nothing wrong with the art of dragon mastery itself," Kongwen said confidently. "The problem must be with something else." "That's?" Old Lin asked hesitantly. "I'm not sure yet." Kongwen turned to Yushu and said, "Little girl, your body seems to be a little special." "Oh, I don't know, but I'm very resistant to heat," Yushu said. Kongwen's lips curved into a faint smile, and his eyes swept across Yushu's body. He then said, "Help Lil Yi cool down first. Lil Yi's condition will not be a problem for now, but it's possible that there will be sequelae after a long time. So, it's best if you can help him cool down. Let's talk about it after I find out the reason." "Oh, okay." Yushu felt a chill in her heart when Kongwen looked at her. It was as if her entire being was seen through. She hadn't felt this way for many years. Although Lin Yi would sometimes see through her little disguises, it was the first time he could see through her inner world. Could it be that he saw through something? Did he know her secret? But seeing that Kongwen only told her to cool down Lin Yi and didn't say anything else, Yushu let out a sigh of relief. "Mr. Lin, can you tell me the whole process of Lil Yi's return in detail?" Kongwen didn't look at Yushu anymore, but turned to old Lin. "Okay." Old Lin didn't dare to hesitate. He organized his words and started from the moment Lin Yi returned home. He told Kong Wen about how Lin Yi obtained the second stage of the art of dragon mastery and began to practice. Of course, because Tang Yun and the others were there, old Lin didn't tell them about the cave. But even if old Lin didn't say it, Kong Wen would still know about it. I know the reason. Kong Wen interrupted old Lin before he could finish. The formula for body tempering can't be replaced by one. Although the fruit of peace can be replaced by other herbs that can calm one's mind, if the quantity isn't controlled properly, it will cause a problem. And Lil Yi's condition right now is caused by not suppressing the second stage of pure qi. His pure qi belongs to the extreme yang type. Once he goes berserk, his whole body will heat up. So that's the reason. Old Lin's face showed a regretful expression. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have asked him to replace the fruit of peace with other herbs. That's the reason. Kong Wen nodded, but how can it be cured? Old Lin was regretful, but he was more concerned about how to cure Lin Yi's deviation. Chapter 1779. Then. Old Man Lin was shocked after hearing Imo Kongwen's words. Could it be that Lil Yi's condition was incurable? There's a way, but I don't know if it'll work. Kongwen said after some hesitation. What is it? As long as there's hope, we have to try. Old Lin had always looked calm and collected, even when Lin Yi had lost all his strength and had to go back to West Star Village to seek refuge. Old Lin was still as calm and collected as ever, but this time, he was truly panicking. There's a way, but I'm afraid it won't work. Kongwen said, so I've been thinking if there's an alternative, but no matter how I think about it, this might be the only way. What is it? Tell me. I'm getting impatient. Old Lin said worriedly. Go to the Snow Valley of the Ancient Faction and ask for an ice spirit fruit. It can be used to suppress the true qi in one's body and expel the fire poison produced during the process of qi deviation. Mo Kongwen said slowly. Snow Valley. Ice spirit fruit. Old Lin murmured these two names, a strange look on his face. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu, on the other hand, had a rather interesting look on their faces. What's wrong? Did you guys ask for the fruit from Snow Valley already, but there's no result? Kongwen paused. I've never heard of the fruit, but I've heard of the fire spirit fruit. Old Lin smiled bitterly. Lin Yi went looking for it before. Sky and earth treasures produced by the Ice Palace. Mo Kongwen was taken aback. Lil Yi has already made contact with people from the ancient era. Yes, I did. Old Lin kept it short, telling Kongwen about Xiao Zhao's situation, including Lin Yi's experience in the Ice Palace. I see. But the fire spirit's fruit is used by those who practice the extreme Yin hard art. It is used to suppress the coldness in their body and force out the coldness poison when they lose control. Compared to the ice spirit's fruit, it is much more important for a martial institution like the Ice Palace. Mo Kongwen said, however, the ice spirit holy fruit is not very useful to the Snow Valley because the Snow Valley also cultivates an extreme Yin attribute mental cultivation technique. Their ice spirit holy fruit can only be used to exchange for heaven and earth treasures with other sects. Therefore, if you ask for it, you can probably exchange it with money or other heaven and earth treasures. I see. Then, do you know anyone from Snow Valley? Old Lin asked. There's nothing I can do to get in touch with the Snow Valley. You know that I have something more important to attend to other than Lil Yi. Before I reach that level, I can't get in touch with people from the ancient era. Mo Kongwen's words were vague, and Meng Yao and the others were confused. Old Lin, however, seemed to understand what he was trying to say. He nodded slightly. Then. Meng Yao and the others didn't understand what he was trying to say, but Old Lin seemed to understand. Kongwen's eyes scanned Lin Yi, Yushu, and Meng Yao before stopping on Tang Yun, you must be Lin Yi's friends, right? I'll leave the task of getting the ice spirit fruit to you guys. Are you confident that you can get it for him? Us? Meng Yao and the others froze. They didn't expect Kong Wen to give this task to the three of them. Mr. Lin can't leave Star West Village due to some special reason, so only you guys can do it, Kong Wen said faintly. We'll try our best. Tang Yun didn't know where the courage came from, but she said firmly after hearing Kong Wen's words. But old Lin frowned. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't leave Star West Village, he would have gone to Snow Valley himself. But his situation was different from Air Gooden's. Air Gooden could leave as long as he didn't use his full strength, but old Lin couldn't. But letting Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Shu go to Snow Valley alone was something old Lin was worried about. They weren't practitioners, so how could they get the ice spirit fruit from an ancient sect? Old friend, the three girls, went to an ancient sect. Old Lin turned to look at Imo Kongwen, hesitating to speak. It's difficult, but it doesn't mean that we won't succeed. Kongwen looked at Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu meaningfully as he spoke. Oh. Old Lin paused. He knew that Kongwen was a fortune teller, and he had a deep understanding of Qi Men Dun Jia. If he said that it was not impossible, then maybe there really was a way. But old Lin didn't know what Meng Yao and the others could do. The ice spirit fruit isn't much of a treasure to Snow Valley. We can sell it with some money, Kongwen said. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go now. Meng Yao let out a breath of relief when she heard that they could buy it with money. But after saying that, she looked at Tang Yun again. After all, Lin Yi was Tang Yun's boyfriend, and she didn't want to make Tang Yun think too much about it, right? Okay, then let's go now. Tang Yun didn't think much of it, but where is Snow Valley? Tang Yun suddenly thought of an important problem. They didn't know where it was, so how were they going to get there? I'll draw a map for you, you just need to follow the map, Kongwen said. Okay, then Yao Yao will drive, and I'll look at the map in the front passenger seat. Let Shu and Lin Yi sit in the back seat to help him cool down. Tang Yun didn't want to wait any longer after hearing that there was a solution. Kongwen took out a piece of paper and a map, and drew a map for Tang Yun and the others. When we get there, just tell them that we want to buy some treasures. Snow Valley should be able to sell them. Okay, let's go now. Tang Yun took the map and put it away carefully. Then, she started to pack her luggage and get ready to go. It was supposed to be a happy trip to the village, but they didn't expect trouble. Old Lin and Kongwen helped to carry Lin Yi into the car, and they left Star Mountain Village in a hurry. Kongwen's map was drawn along the highway, and there were no routes in the wilderness. This was also for the safety of the girls. After all, the three of them weren't practitioners, and Lin Yi was in a state of qi deviation. If there was any trouble along the way, it wouldn't be easy to solve it. However, this would undoubtedly cause the route to be a little longer and roundabout, and it couldn't be helped. Chapter 1780. Old friend, don't worry. Even though little Yi has gone berserk, his life is not in danger. I care about him more than you do. Mo Kongwen could tell that old Lin was worried. I'm afraid that the Snow Valley won't sell the ice spirit's fruit to them so easily. Old Lin voiced out his concern. After all, Lin Yi had gone through a lot of trouble to find the fire spirit's fruit. Even though there were some twists and turns, the final result should be good. Mo Kongwen was calculating something with his fingers, but he couldn't help but let out a gasp of surprise. What's wrong? Old Lin's heart tightened. There's a result, but it's not perfect. Mo Kongwen frowned. Could there be an accident? A hint of worry flashed across Mo Kongwen's eyes as he spoke. An accident? Old Lin was stunned. It's nothing, maybe I made a wrong judgment. I can't predict little Yi's fate. Mo Kongwen shook his head, but only he knew what his prediction meant. If the result was not perfect, it meant that there would be no return. But since there was a result, it proved that Lin Yi was fine. The only possibility was that someone would sacrifice themselves in this trip to the Snow Valley. Mo Kongwen didn't have everyone's birth date, so he couldn't predict who would be sacrificed, but he could predict the cause and effect of the whole thing. Even so, he couldn't change anything. Sometimes, even if he could predict the result in advance, it wouldn't change anything. Some things were destined. Mo Kongwen hesitated for a while, but he didn't say anything else. His goal was simple. As long as Lin Yi was fine, everything would be fine. As for the others, he couldn't do anything about them. If his master was here, everything would be fine, but now, if Lin Yi woke up and resented him, he couldn't do anything about it. Everything had its consequences, and if he wanted Lin Yi to be safe, he had to pay a price. Old Lin could tell that there was a hidden meaning in Mo Kongwen's words, but he knew that if Mo Kongwen didn't say anything, it would be pointless for him to ask. Sigh. Mo Kongwen sighed and said to Old Lin, "We haven't seen each other for years, let's have a drink." "All right." Although Old Man Lin was worried, he knew that since Mo Kongwen said that Lin Yi was fine, he should be fine. The two of them turned around and walked into the room. Old Lin took out some fine wine that he had kept for many years. At the same time, the Hidden House Yu and the Hidden House Xiao broke off all of a sudden, and the conflict between the two continued to escalate. The second-generation disciples from both sides had already clashed several times, and both houses suffered varying degrees of damage. Although no one had lost their lives yet, it seemed like it would happen soon. But Elder Yu was the second elder of the association, and the other hidden houses didn't have the power to mediate. And so, things fell into a stalemate. After many discussions with the other elders of the Hidden House Association, they decided to use the communicator that they hadn't used in a long time to contact the Great Elder and ask him to mediate the conflict between the Hidden House Yu and House Xiao. This communicator was an emergency communicator left behind by the Great Elder before he left. He said that unless the Hidden House Association ran into trouble that they couldn't handle, they could only use the communicator. Although it was a bit excessive to use it because of the conflict between the two houses, everyone's main goal was to check if the Great Elder was still alive or not. One had to know that the Great Elder wasn't young at that time, and he had left with that person. Now that there was no news of them, it was uncertain whether they were still in this world. However, the influence of the Great Elder from back then was still there, and no one dared to stand out. They could only use this method to test the waters. Elder Yu and the other elders of the hidden houses sat around the conference table. Everyone unanimously decided to let Elder Yu press the button on the communicator. After all, other than the Hidden House Yu, the Hidden House Yu's prestige was the highest in recent years. Elder Yu didn't refuse and pressed the button on the communicator. The indicator light on the communicator flickered a few times, and it turned into a waiting state. Just as Elder Yu pressed the communicator, in a small house tens of thousands of miles away, the indicator light of a communicator flashed, and a sharp warning sound rang out, but at this moment, there was no one in this house. If one looked closely, the house was very tidy. It looked like someone had lived in it recently, but there was no one at the moment. The waiting indicator light on the communicator on Elder Yu's table flashed for 3 minutes before it finally went off, but there was no response from the communicator. Almost as soon as the indicator light went off, all the elders at the conference table let out a sigh of relief, a relaxed smile appearing on their faces. Looks like no one answered. Old Master Yu of the Yu family was also very happy, but he was a cautious person. In order to confirm, he pressed the call button on the communicator again. The indicator light lit up again and flickered. Everyone's breathing became tense again. Everyone stared at the communicator in front of them, but the waiting indicator light on the communicator went off after 3 minutes. They were sure that there was no response from the other party. Still no response. Elder Pi was a little hesitant, but also a little surprised. "I'm afraid not," Elder Yu nodded, "but to be careful, let's try calling again tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. If there is still no response, then we can basically confirm that Elder Yu left with that person, along with those Sky Class Masters. We are no longer bound, that's right, but will the ancient sects try to suppress us?" Old Pi's question was the one everyone was most concerned about. Everyone knew that the hidden house you had the shadow of the heavenly elixir sect support. Otherwise, the hidden house you wouldn't be able to not only become a Sky Class Master in a short 10 years, but also have great achievements in alchemy. They were almost catching up to the hidden house you. Chapter 1781. As far as I know, all the ancient sects are preparing for the Sky Class Conference. How would they have the time to care about us? House Yu's elder said faintly. After that, he added, "Of course, this is just my speculation." However, although the old master of the Yu family said so, all the old masters present still showed a knowing smile. This was already the third day since Meng Yao and the others left the West Star village. Because there were 3 girls, they drove during the day every day. After getting off the highway at night, they found a large express hotel in the city and checked in. When they checked into the hotel, Xiao Shu carried Lin Yi. Although it looked like she was struggling, others couldn't help because Lin Yi's body was too hot. Other than Xiao Shu, no one could bear it. But Xiao Shu was also strong. She held on for a few days. No one knew where her explosive strength came from. Of course, because they checked into different hotels every day, no one suspected anything. When the 3 girls checked into the hotel, they directly said that Lin Yi had a cold and was having a fever. The redness on his body made it easy to see that he was sick. As for the redness on Xiao Shu's face, no one thought anything was wrong. They all thought that she was tired from carrying Lin Yi. "We're almost there." Tang Yun looked at the map in her hand and couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Along the way, they were driving on the highway. Naturally, there wouldn't be any danger, but they were afraid that something unexpected would happen. But, as the saying goes, the more you're afraid of something, the more likely it will happen. They passed through safely all the way, but they encountered some trouble at the last stop. Because of the special geographical location of Snow Valley, Meng Yao could only drive through some mountain roads and small roads after the last highway. Along the way, they passed through some farmland and villages. When they passed through a small road with woods on both sides, they found a crossbar on the ground in front of the road, blocking their way. "What's going on?" Meng Yao stopped the car and looked at the crossbar in front of the road. "Should I get off the car and move the crossbar?" Tang Yun didn't think much because the crossbar wasn't big. Although it was difficult for her to move it alone, it wasn't a problem. "No." Meng Yao stopped Tang Yun subconsciously. She used to travel with Shu a lot, so she had more experience than Tang Yun. Although Meng Yao had never seen a tree blocking the road before, she had heard people talk about it. Usually, other than a few natural trees, most of them were man-made. And the purpose of doing so was to block the road and rob. "What's wrong?" Tang Yun paused. "I'm afraid there might be danger." Meng Yao locked the door and said nervously, "Don't tell me it's a robbery." "Robbery?" Tang Yun jumped in fright. When she looked at the crossbar again, she was also shocked. The crossbar was neat and sharp. It didn't look like it was naturally broken. It looked like someone had cut it off and placed it there. As soon as Tang Yun finished her sentence, 2 black shadows appeared not far from the crossbar. Seeing that Meng Yao and the others didn't open the car door, they walked over and stood next to the driver's seat. They knocked on the window impatiently, "Get out, get out." Although Meng Yao had closed the window, the people outside were talking loudly. Meng Yao could still hear their words. Just from the way they dressed, she could tell that they weren't good people. Moreover, they appeared in front of the crossbar coincidentally. Their purpose was obvious. It wasn't the first time Meng Yao had been in danger. She'd been in the bank and at the amusement park, and she'd been in much more dangerous situations than this. But with Lin Yi by her side, she'd been able to get through it easily. But now, Lin Yi's practice was going crazy, and he was still unconscious. How was she going to deal with these two people? What are you doing? Meng Yao didn't dare open the window. She could only open a small gap and shouted. And you're a girl. One of the men laughed. I opened this mountain, and I planted this tree. If you want to pass through, you'll have to pay for the road. You want money. Meng Yao wasn't stupid. She immediately understood what the man was trying to say. Smart. The burly man chuckled and said, I don't need to say anything more. Hand over all your valuables. We brothers only want money, not cars. Once you give us the money, we'll help you move the hose. How much money do you want? Meng Yao asked. What, didn't you hear me? Take out all the money you have. Isipik card, and tell me the password. The man said, thinking that he was being funny. Meng Yao frowned slightly. She did have a bank card, and she did ask her dad for quite a bit of money before coming to Westar village, but this money was supposed to be used to buy the ice spirit fruit. It seemed like she wouldn't be able to keep it. Of course, this was because Meng Yao didn't know the value of the fruit. If she did, she wouldn't care about this small amount of money. But if she didn't pay, they wouldn't be able to leave. Meng Yao clenched her teeth. We can give you the money, I'll throw the card and money out the window. I'll tell you the password too, but you have to let us go. Meng Yao was thinking that she could ask her dad to transfer the money to them when they reached Snowy Valley. There was no need to worry about the money she had now. Getting through here was the key. No, get off the car. We want to check it ourselves. The man didn't believe Meng Yao. Meng Yao didn't want to get off the car. She didn't want to cause more trouble, but this man was stubborn. Meng Yao was in a difficult position. We're girls, it's not convenient for us to get off the car. Here's the money and the card. I'll tell you the password now, you can call and check it. 1 million. The black-robed man and the other bald man looked at each other, and their eyes flashed with an extraordinary splendor. It wasn't the first time they robbed people, but they only robbed people who were on a road trip. They changed their target every time they got a shot, so they didn't get into trouble. Chapter 1782. Every time they robbed, they would only get 8 to 10,000 yuan. Sometimes, 30 to 50,000 yuan would be considered a big shot. After all, most people on a road trip wouldn't carry a lot of money in their pockets, and they didn't have a lot of savings in their bank cards. But this was the first time Meng Yao said that she had 1 million yuan in her bank card. Give me your card, I'll take a look. The man in black said. Okay. Meng Yao handed over her bank card without hesitation and said, the password is 5201. Meng Yao felt a little awkward saying the password herself. It was set by Shu, and Meng Yao didn't think anything was wrong when she told her, but now that she was saying it aloud, she felt like, the numbers sounded like a sentence. Meng Yao thought that it sounded like a sentence? Meng Yao looked guiltily at Tang Yun, who was in the passenger seat. I love Lin Yi. Tang Yun smiled. What a coincidence, ha. However, anyone could see that there was a hint of bitterness in Tang Yun's smile. But in this kind of emergency, Tang Yun didn't want to dwell on it. Its shoes set, Meng Yao didn't know why she had to defend herself, but she did. After defending herself, she felt a little regretful. Wasn't it making things worse? I was just joking to ease the tense atmosphere. It's nothing. Tang Yun smiled slightly, and her expression returned to normal. Of course, the man in black called the bank after taking Ming Yao's bank card. When he heard that there was 1 million yuan in the bank card, his smile twisted into a ball, like a blooming chrysanthemum. It really is 1 million yuan. Ha, Baldy, we're rich. Get out, let us see if you have any other cards or money. After listening to the words of the black-shirt man, Baldy was very excited, but he was not satisfied. He knocked on the window even harder. Greed was endless, especially for two robbers. From their point of view, it didn't matter how much they robbed. Since they did it this time, they must have committed a serious crime. They might have to retire and find a place to live in seclusion. So, they must get as much as they could before leaving. Meng Yao thought that they would leave after getting the card, but 1 million wasn't enough to satisfy them. Not only was there the 1 million Chu Pingzhan had transferred to her before she left, but there was also a few tens of thousands of pocket money in her bank account. Wasn't this enough for her? She wanted more. We didn't bring much money with us, only a few thousand yuan. We've given you all our cards. You should at least leave us some living expenses, right? Ming Yao's words were a little pleading. Normally, she was a prideful person, but at this moment, she had to lower her proud head in order to avoid unnecessary trouble and reach Snowy Valley faster. She had no choice but to bow down to the two robbers. A few thousand. How could we not believe it? Get out of the car. If it's only a few thousand, we don't want it. The bald man said. With more than 1 million, a few thousand was nothing to them. At the same time, the man was busy transferring the money through the phone. He was afraid that Meng Yao and the others would freeze the account once they left, and they'd be left with nothing. Meng Yao looked at Tang Yun helplessly. Yun, what do we do now? I don't think it's appropriate to get out of the car. I don't know. Tang Yun didn't know what to do. She realized that she was so weak when Lin Yi wasn't by her side. When Lin Yi was by her side, whether it was the assassins from Yellow Spring sect or the provocation at House Tang, Lin Yi would always be able to resolve them easily. But now, without Lin Yi, she felt so useless. At this moment, Tang Yun suddenly had a deep desire for strength. If she was also a practitioner, even if she was only at the early phase of golden class like Xiao Xiao, she would be able to deal with these two robbers easily, right? These two were as weak as ants in the eyes of Lin Yi and even Wu Qintian and Faubert, but they dared to cause trouble for them on the road. Hurry up, what are you waiting for? Get out of the car, or we won't be polite and smash your car. The man in black threw the card on the ground after transferring the money to Meng Yao and scolded her in the car. There's no choice, get out of the car. Meng Yao knew that there was no other way now that the two were really going to smash the car. They'd have to get out of the car after they broke the car's glass. They couldn't go forward, but reversing the car. Meng Yao didn't have Lin Yi's superb driving skills, and she wouldn't be able to handle the rugged path in the forest at all. She'd crash into a tree if she wasn't careful. Running away was out of the question. Since the decision was made, everyone didn't hesitate anymore. They opened the door and got out of the car, but Yushu didn't. She continued to press her hands on Lin Yi's arms, trying to cool down Lin Yi's body along the way. She didn't want to burn him and the car seat to ashes. Although Mo Kongwen and Old Lin had put a fireproof blanket on the car seat, it was fine for a short period of time, but if it was too long, the blanket wouldn't work. The black-clothed man and the bald man's eyes lit up when they saw Meng Yao and Tang Yun's faces. They hadn't touched a woman for a long time, but even if they did, they would only be the cheap goods in the small salon. How could they compare to these two people in front of them? Meng Yao and Tang Yun were top-notch in terms of appearance and temperament. It would be strange if these two robbers weren't attracted to them. The black-clothed man and the bald man glanced at each other and understood the meaning behind each other's eyes. The two of them smiled and said, "Little girl, you said that you don't have money, so I'll believe you for the time being. But, playing with me in this wilderness should be very exciting, right? What are you doing? Meng Yao and Tang Yun's faces were filled with panic. Although they asked that, they were 80% sure that these two robbers wanted to kill them. This was also the reason why they didn't want to get out of the car. Being beautiful was a good thing, but at this moment, it might not be a good thing. Chapter 1783. Alrighty. The bald man laughed as he reached out to grab Tang Yun. The two girls looked at the two's devilish smiles, and a trace of pain appeared on their faces. In this deep forest, they had no one to call for help. Lin Yi had always been by their side, protecting them all the time. Even when they were in danger, they had never felt despair. Even if Lin Yi wasn't here, there was still Wu Qintian, Faubert, and even General Wei Wu. They could hold them off for a while, but this time, they didn't bring anyone. Even General Wei Wu and Skybolt Pig were left in West Star Village. Skybolt Pig and General Wei Wu were ancient spiritual beasts. If they brought them to Snowy Valley, they would be blackmailed. Naturally, they couldn't bring them. Air Gooden, on the other hand, was weak and couldn't withstand the cold, so he couldn't travel with them. Because of this, the route that Mr. Mo drew was on the highway, so there shouldn't be any danger. But no matter how much he calculated, he forgot about the last part of the journey. If she knew that there would be trouble, Meng Yao wouldn't have taken this route. She'd rather take the long way around. Yao Yao sis, what are you doing? Why aren't you back yet? Can't you just give them money? Just when Meng Yao and Tang Yun were in despair, Yushu's voice came from the car. Yushu's voice also made the two men pause. Why was there another person in the car? Because the car was covered with a black film, the two men didn't know how many people were in the car. When they saw Meng Yao and Tang Yun get off, they thought that there were only two girls in the car, but they didn't expect that there was a third girl in the back seat. However, because of Yushu's voice, the two men hesitated. They weren't afraid of Yushu, but they were afraid that Yushu would suddenly attack them when they were doing their business. They might lose their lives then. Of course, they had a way, and that was to tie someone up with rope first. Then, they could do whatever they wanted. The black-clothed man and the baldy had been working together for many years, and they had a good understanding of each other's intentions. They left Meng Yao and Tang Yun at the same time and walked towards the back of the car. As far as they were concerned, it was impossible for Meng Yao and Tang Yun to escape. They were in the middle of nowhere, and it was impossible for them to escape without a car. The two of them walked to the back door and opened it, one on the left and one on the right. However, the scene in the back seat of the car made the two men stunned at the same time. What they didn't expect was that not only was there a girl in the back seat, there was also a man lying on his side in the back seat. The two of them were startled. They immediately turned their bodies to the side and shouted, "Get out of the car." "Oh, did they give you the money?" Yushu, on the other hand, looked at the man innocently. "My boyfriend actually has a bank card with him. It's not a lot, but it's still around 300,000. You guys want it?" "Yes. Of course." The two men heard that Yushu had around 300,000, and their faces immediately flashed with excitement. They didn't care about playing with girls anymore, they had to get the 300,000 first. With 300,000, they wouldn't have to worry about not having a girlfriend. Although the two beauties in front of them were like goddesses, in their eyes, money was more important. "My boyfriend is sick, he can't get up. The bank card is in the back pocket of his pants, I can't take it out." Yushu tried to lift Lin Yi's body, but she couldn't move him at all. "Alright, girl, get out of the car, we brothers will find it ourselves. Just tell us the password." The black-clothed man impatiently urged Yushu to get out of the car. "Oh, okay. Yushu jumped out of the car and stood behind the black-clothed man. She secretly gave Meng Yao and Tang Yun a hand signal. Of course, the black-clothed man and the bald man didn't see all of this, because they couldn't wait to bend down and search Lin Yi's bank card. Although the black-clothed man felt that the car was a little too hot, he didn't suspect anything. After all, the car had been parked there for a long time, and the windows were closed. How could it not be hot? After Yushu left, Lin Yi's face suddenly turned red. Of course, the black-clothed man and the bald man didn't notice this strange change at all, because they were blinded by money. Tang Yun and Meng Yao saw Yushu's action and hand signal and were slightly stunned at first, but when they saw Yushu standing behind the black-clothed man and raising her right foot, they immediately understood what Yushu meant. Meng Yao and Tang Yun were wondering how Lin Yi had 300,000 in his bank card. But now, they understood. Shu was scamming people again. And so, Tang Yun and Meng Yao quickly walked behind the bald man, and at the same time, Yushu used all her strength to kick the man's back. Yushu had been carrying Lin Yi to the hotel every day for the past couple of days, and her strength had increased by leaps and bounds. The kick caught the man off guard, sending him sprawling on top of Lin Yi. On the other side, Tang Yun and Meng Yao moved as well. Both of them kicked the bald man into the car and closed the doors with Yushu. "Oh woo, oh woo," two mournful screams came from inside the car. Accompanied by bursts of burning smell, the screams became even more terrifying. However, the burning smell was getting stronger, and the screams were getting weaker and weaker. After a while, it was completely gone. When Yushu, Meng Yao, and Tang Yun opened the car door again, both of their bodies were burned, and they couldn't tell who was who from their faces. Obviously, they had already fainted. It was impossible for them to not faint from such intense burns. Yushu, one on the left and one on the right, tossed the two scalded kidnappers to the side of the road. She dusted off her hands. "Done. Let's go move the crossbar." Tang Yun and Meng Yao gave Yushu a thumbs up. How ruthless. She could even think of this kind of trick, using Lin Yi to burn the two kidnappers half to death. These two were really unlucky to meet Yushu. Chapter 1784. The three returned to the car after moving the plank. They didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly left the place. Tang Yun and Meng Yao, on the other hand, were still in shock. They admired Yushu very much. "Shu, thank goodness we have you. Otherwise, Yao Yao and I wouldn't know what to do." Tang Yun shivered when she thought of the perverted look in their eyes. The consequences would have been unimaginable if they had succeeded. Who told them to be so greedy? They're not satisfied even after taking 1,000,000. Yushu suddenly called out, "Oh no, how are we going to buy the ice spirit fruit for Shield Bro if we give them all the money?" "Don't worry, we'll just call Dad and ask him to transfer the money to me," Meng Yao sighed in relief. "As long as he's fine, the money is small." "You're right, Uncle Chu is rich now." Yushu nodded. Meng Yao didn't stop the car along the way until they arrived at a small town and checked into a hotel. The three of them could finally relax. This time, it was more scary than dangerous. However, Meng Yao and the others, who were far away in the town, didn't know that there was a huge piece of news recently. Dr. Kang's medicine company was undergoing a complete overhaul. Not only did they lower the prices of all their old products, but they also released many new medicines. Among them was Dr. Kang's 100 Pain Relief, which was similar to Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller, but its price was only half of Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller. Moreover, during the product launch, Kong Guifeng also said that this price was only the price before mass production. It would be even cheaper after mass production. In fact, this was a hint to everyone that their products were the cheapest. If Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller was cheaper than theirs, then their Dr. Kang's would definitely be cheaper. Not only that, Dr. Kang's Medicine Company's flagship product, Dr. Kang's Golden Creation, also lowered its price, and it was now half of Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. Not only that, Dr. Kang's Golden Creation was also released. Not only did it have all the effects of the Golden Creation, but it also had the effect of removing old scars. The price of this product was only the same as the old Golden Creation, and this made the name of Dr. Kang's medicine famous. Although Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's products were selling like hotcakes, it was still an old brand that was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Now that the price had dropped, the patients who had been buying Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine and painkillers naturally went into the embrace of Miracle Dr. Guan's Golden Creation medicine and painkillers after seeing the cheaper ones. Even if Miracle Dr. Kang's Golden Creation changed its formula and wasn't the same as before, the consumers didn't know about it. Plus, the formula that House Hidden You gave to House Kong was something that this medical family had gone through countless trials and tribulations. The effect might be slower than Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine, but because of the cheaper price, it would take over the market in an instant. What's more, there was a premium edition of Jinshuang medicine for comparison. It could completely remove old scars, and the price was only the same as the previous Jinshuang medicine. This kind of great discount made the entire consumer market excited. Moreover, with the support of the Hidden House Yuyu, Dr. Kang's Medicine Company released new products one after another. Among them, Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine was the most successful one. It received a good response as soon as it was released, and the sales kept rising. Dr. Kong looked at the money coming in every day, and the corner of his mouth almost reached his ears. Ha ha ha, Xiao Ming, you did well this time. This is great. It's all thanks to you that the Hidden House Yuyu can support us so much. Thank you for the compliment, Grandpa. Kong Ming was surprised that the Hidden House Yuyu would be so generous. In fact, how was the Hidden House Yuyu being generous? It was just that the Heavenly Elixir sect was very happy when they saw the formula, and they asked the House Yuyu not to mistreat House Kong. That was why the House Yuyu gave House Kong so many benefits. Moreover, these formulas were insignificant compared to the pill formula. Otherwise, the Hidden House Yuyu wouldn't be so generous. Chapter 1785. Recently, Xiaolong's position in House Kong had been completely marginalized. He wasn't allowed to participate in important matters anymore. He had become the manager of a pharmaceutical company's R&D department. Although this position sounded impressive outside, being the manager of the R&D department in Dr. Kong Medical Group, it was nothing in House Kong. So, Xiaolong tried his best to show off in front of Dr. Kong. Big bro, it's a little troublesome to acquire the small pharmaceutical factories. The factories aren't centralized, and it's not convenient to manage them all, but it's fine. Our House Kang's production line mainly produces the popular products, and those small factories can produce the less popular products. Each factory only needs to focus on one product, and we only need to send one of our own people to oversee the production. Of course, Big Bro is right. We can also expand the production line now and do it at the same time. This way, we won't delay production. Kong Ming said. Yes, Xiaolong's right. Xiaolong, you just need to keep the formula a secret. You don't need to get involved in business like this. Dr. Kong said to Xiaolong. Xiaolong's eyes flashed with unwillingness. He was originally the heir of House Kong, but now, he was completely marginalized. Fatty Lai and Guan Shuamin didn't think that Lin Yi's trip would cause such a huge incident at home. At first, when Dr. Kang's medical company held the product launch, Fatty Lai didn't pay much attention to it. He thought that they were making a loss and making a last struggle. But when Fatty Lai saw that Dr. Kang's Golden Creation and Baitonxio were flowing into the market, as if they weren't making a loss at all, it was already too late. The pharmacies that were working with House Lu seemed to have discussed it beforehand, and all of them refunded their orders. House Lu's stock was already on alert, and the refunds from the distributors were piling up like a mountain. Fatty Lai, a veteran in the business world, was stunned. The current situation was completely out of his expectations. Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creations cost was there for all to see. How could they sell it at such a cheap price? And where did their Baitongxio recipe come from? If their golden creations price reduction and Baitongxio's launch were because they stole Fatty Lai's company's formula, then the golden creations special edition and weight loss medicines launch proved that their formula didn't come from Miracle Dr. Guan's company. After all, even Guan Shuamin and Fatty Lai didn't have the special edition injury medicine recipe, let alone the weight loss medicine that had never been produced before. All signs pointed to Dr. Kang's medical company receiving support from some powerful faction. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to have so many new products. Plus, they'd have to rent a lot of production lines from smaller factories to keep the supply under such a high volume of sales. Miracle Dr. Kong definitely didn't have this kind of connections. Although Fatty Lai's guess was close to the truth, it was useless even if he guessed it correctly. Lin Yi wasn't home, and they didn't have a product to compete with him. What frustrated Fatty Lai the most was that Lin Yi's phone was turned off. Fatty Lai dialed and dialed, but the phone was still turned off. Left with no other choice, Fatty Lai went to Shuamin's house to discuss a plan with him. He didn't know that Lin Yi was afraid of being disturbed and turned off his phone. After that, he fainted. Tang Yun and the others didn't remember to turn on Lin Yi's phone. Elder Guan, what should we do about Dr. Kang's pharmaceutical group? Fatty Lai went straight to the point. I can't get through to the boss, but judging from the current situation, if we don't take some measures, we in House Lu won't be able to hold on much longer. You can't get through to Lil Yi. Why don't you try calling Tang Yun and the others? They should be together, right? Shuamin said after some thought. I forgot about that. Fatty Lai was embarrassed. He was too worried and didn't know that Tang Yun and the others were together with Lin Yi. He quickly dialed Tang Yun's number when Shuamin reminded him. This time, the call went through. Tang Yun's voice came from the other side. Mr. Lai. It's me, sis-in-law. Is the boss with you? I have something urgent to talk to him about. Fatty Lai dialed Tang Yun's number and let out a sigh of relief. It was as if he found his pillar of support. House Kang's incident was sudden, but with Lin Yi there, they should be able to defeat them. Fatty Lai remembered that Lin Yi had said that these two drugs were just testing the waters. If the market responded well, they would release other special drugs. It was Fatty Lai who had advised Lin Yi not to release all the products at once. They needed to do it step by step. That was how they managed to create a lasting sensation in the market. Of course, if it wasn't for House Kang's incident, Fatty Lai's approach would be correct. He could ensure that Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company would always appear in the eyes of the people and not be forgotten. However, Dr. Kong Medical Company made this move and completely messed up Fatty Lai's plan. Currently, if they wanted to compete with Dr. Kong Medical Company, they had to lower their prices and release other products that could compete with them. They had to release more effective medicines to get back the market. After all, although the price of Dr. Kang's golden creation was high, it was an old brand. Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company's injury medicine might have similar effects, but the brand's history was too short. They only won with the price advantage. Now that Dr. Kong suddenly sold their golden creation at half the price of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company, the consumers would naturally switch to the old brand. Lin Yi, he. Tang Yun glanced at Lin Yi, who was unconscious on the sofa, and sighed. Mr. Lai, if there's anything, just tell me. Lin Yi can't answer the phone right now, then. This matter still needs the boss to deal with. Why don't we ask him to call me back when it's convenient? Fatty Lie said. He's training. If there's anything, just tell me. I'll help you pass the message. Tang Yun hesitated. Although Fatty Lie was a trustworthy person, Lin Yi had made too many enemies. If the enemies accidentally knew that Lin Yi had gone mad, they might come to find trouble. That was why Tang Yun didn't tell Fatty Lie about Lin Yi. Chapter 1786. The situation is terrible. Above, Fatty Lie paused. Although he didn't understand, he could guess that Lin Yi wasn't in a good position to answer the phone. Otherwise, Tang Yun wouldn't have said that. So, he stopped looking for Lin Yi. Instead, he told Tang Yun everything that happened in the company recently. Tang Yun didn't think that Dr. Kang's company would retaliate at this time. She didn't know what to do. Mr. Lai, why don't you wait for a while? I'll discuss it with you and call you back. Okay, sis-in-law, I'll wait for your call. Fatty Lie said. Tang Yun hung up and Meng Yao saw that Tang Yun's face didn't look too good. What happened? Dr. Kang's golden creation lowered the price of their medicine, and they released a lot of special medicines to compete with Miracle Dr. Guan's company. Tang Yun told Meng Yao and Yushu what Fatty Lie said. Yao Yao, Lin Yi is in a coma now. What should we do? Fatty Lie can't make up his mind. Then, can we lower the price as well? Meng Yao may be the daughter of Pingzhan Industries, but she didn't know much about business. If they lower the price, we should be able to win some market share, right? I don't know. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi worriedly. She finally understood the saying, misfortune never comes alone. It was fine before, but trouble came when Lin Yi went berserk. Sister Yun, why don't you let Fatty Lie call Uncle Chu to discuss a solution? After all, Uncle Chu has been doing business for many years, he's experienced. Yushu suggested. Yeah, we can let Dad think of something. Mingyao's eyes lit up after hearing Shu's words. Even Lin Yi doesn't know much about the business side of things. That's why he doesn't have to do anything. If we can lower the price, we can let him and Dad discuss the other things. Okay, I'll call him back now. Tang Yun didn't dare delay and called Fatty Lie back. Sister-in-law, is there any news? Fatty Lie asked. Lin Yi can't answer the phone right now, but I discussed it with Yao Yao and Shu. You can call Uncle Chu to discuss a solution. Should we lower the price as well? Tang Yun asked. Discuss. Fatty Lie smiled bitterly. He was a veteran in business, and House Lu had no lack of business geniuses. The second son of House Lu was also a veteran in business, but they didn't have any new products to compete with Miracle Dr. Kang's medical company. Just lowering the price wouldn't bring back too many customers. Were they supposed to be cheaper than Miracle Dr. Kang's medical company? Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creation was currently priced at 49, and Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine was priced at 99. The difference between the two was double. Unless Fatty Lie sold it at 29 or 39, there was no way he could turn the situation around. But 29 and 39 didn't have much money left after deducting the channel fees. Fatty Lie, on the other hand, was in a huge debt. The factories were basically mortgaged after they were built, and if he didn't make this mistake, with Fatty Lie's current development model, he'd be able to make a lot of money in the next few years, even if he wouldn't see much profit in the beginning. But he didn't know that Dr. Kang's medical company would interfere and cause him to be in a difficult situation. If Lin Yi could release a few more special medicines, even if the injury medicine wasn't profitable, he could still sell it. But right now, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company only had injury medicine and painkillers. These two products could be found in Dr. Kang's medical company, and the price was half of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's. This was obviously targeted at Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai believed that if he lowered the price, Dr. Kang's medical company would sell it at a lower price. Because they had other products to support them. Just the special edition Golden Creation weight loss medicine were enough to make Dr. Kang's medical company earn a lot of money. Golden Creation and Beitong Xiao were just supplementary products. What's wrong? Tang Yun heard the hesitation in Fatty Lai's words and asked curiously. Nothing. Fatty Lai smiled bitterly, I'll think of something. If boss is free, ask him to call me back as soon as possible. Okay, I got it. Tang Yun was anxious, but nothing was more important than waking up Lin Yi. The company lost money and could earn it back, but Lin Yi's situation couldn't be delayed. Fatty Lai sighed. Although he didn't know what happened to Lin Yi, if he couldn't answer the phone in this situation, then he really couldn't make it. How is it? Although Guan Shuamin only worked in the company in name, it was still Lin Yi's company. He still cared about it. Boss didn't answer the phone. He might be doing something more important. Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. I've already told sister-in-law to get back to me as soon as he's free. Then hold on until Lin Yi comes back. He must have a way, Guan Shuamin smiled bitterly. Shuamin had faith in Lin Yi. That's not all Lin Yi has. He has a lot more, and every single one of them is a priceless treasure. We can only hold on for now. Fatty Lai nodded. As long as they grit their teeth and get through this, when Lin Yi comes back, he can give Dr. Kong Medical Group a great counterattack. But the situation was worse than Fatty Lai expected. At first, Fatty Lai thought that even if Lin Yi didn't call today, he would call 2 or 3 days later. But he didn't. This made Fatty Lai worried, and he had to announce that the factory would temporarily stop production. But even if they stopped production, the workers would still get paid unless they were laid off. But many of the workers had just signed the contract and it hadn't even expired yet. If they were laid off, they would have to pay a huge sum of compensation. This was undoubtedly a huge sum for Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. So, they could only stop production and not lay off. Fatty Lai thought that as long as they could hold on until Lin Yi came back, everything would be fine. But if they laid off the workers, although Fatty Lai could gather the money, what would happen in the future? How would the factory resume production after Lin Yi came back? At the same time, Fatty Lai had no choice but to lower the price to promote the medicine. The original 99 yuan Miracle Dr. Guan injury medicine was actually 33 yuan per bottle. Chapter 1787. The situation is bad, however. Lu Tianyi didn't have any new sales information yet, but Fatty Lai saw the promotional advertisement from Dr. Kang's medical company. To celebrate the launch of Dr. Kang's rheumatism ointment and stomach remedy, anyone who bought Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine, Golden Creation, rheumatism ointment, or stomach remedy during the event would be able to enjoy a buy one get one free event. In other words, anyone who bought the above 4 medicines would be able to get a bottle of Dr. Kang's Golden Creation or Beitongxiu. Golden Creation and Beitongxiu, on the other hand, were also buy 2 get 1 free. In other words, anyone who bought 2 bottles of Golden Creation or 2 bottles of Beitongxiu, or 1 bottle of Golden Creation and 1 bottle of Beitongxiu would be able to get a bottle of Golden Creation or Beitongxiu. This way, Fatty Lai's sales method was completely useless. Even if he lowered the price, they would only be buying 1 get 2 free. Not only was the price 1 yuan more expensive than Dr. Kang's medical company, but the choices weren't flexible either. The brand wasn't as old as Dr. Kang's medical company. Under these circumstances, Fatty Lai was at his wit's end. Although the current price was still a distance away from the cost price, a product couldn't just be considered as the cost. He had to subtract the cost price from the wholesale price, and then subtract the marketing expenses. Only then would he be able to get the final profit. W quan when W quan, but now, buying one get two free wasn't profitable anymore. He couldn't just let the pharmacies sell their products for nothing, could he? At the very least, he had to leave a certain amount of profit for them. Otherwise, who would sell their products? Fatty Lai had expected this from Dr. Kang's side, but he couldn't do anything about it. He had to sell his stock at a low price because he had no other choice. The funds he had were only enough to pay the workers this month, and the new production line had been shut down a long time ago. W quan compared to Fatty Lai's difficulties, Dr. Kang's family was celebrating. After such a long time under Miracle Dr. Guan's pressure, they finally made a beautiful comeback and took back Miracle Dr. Guan's market share. Although Jinchuang medicine and Baitongxio were consumables, it was impossible to buy them every day. A family would only buy them once or twice in a period of time. However, in a family, there would always be people who would buy Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine, rheumatism ointment, special edition of Jinchuang medicine, and special stomach medicine. The free gifts of these medicines were enough for the whole family. In addition to Dr. Kang's strong promotion, not many people chose Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine company's products. Looking at the mountain of inventory, House Lu's face was full of worry. Most of the refunds from the distributors were paid by House Lu because Fatty Lai had no money left. All his funds were invested in building the production line. However, no matter how rich the Lu family was, their liquidity was limited. Faced with more and more returns, the Lu family had emptied all of their assets. This caused some internal strife within the Lu family. The first to be unhappy was the second son of House Lu, Lu Tianli. Father, it's only a matter of time before Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company goes bankrupt. Why do we still have to invest in it? There's no way to get this money back. Seeing that House Lu's assets were all gone, Lu Tianli, as the person in charge of the business, naturally objected. Tianli, this is nothing. Lu Zhenhu shook his head. You didn't attend the meeting of the noble houses. You don't know how important Lin Yi is to us. As long as Lin Yi comes back, everything will be fine. The money you lost will be earned back sooner or later. Then what if Lin Yi doesn't come back? Even Fatty Lai said that he couldn't contact Lin Yi. Who knows where he went? Lu Tianli said. Father, that Lin Yi may be a practitioner, and he may be strong, but we don't have any practitioners. We only focus on business. If we go bankrupt because of this, then in the future, all right, Tianli, that's enough. Lu Zhenhu waved his hand. There are no practitioners now, but that doesn't mean there won't be any in the future. I think Jing Jing is a very good seedling. I heard that Miracle Dr. Lin is also an alchemist. If he manages to refine a foundation establishment pill, we can get one for Jing Jing. When Jing Jing becomes an expert, our Lu family will really rise to the ranks of the Cultivators Association. This is the foundation for us to establish ourselves in the future. Lu Tianli still wanted to say something, but he gave up after hearing his father's words. Tianli, there's a saying you have to understand. Helping someone in a time of need is something they'll remember for the rest of their life, but the icing on the cake can only be exchanged for temporary benefits. Tianli said. Miracle Dr. Lin isn't back yet, and if we help Fatty Lai now, Miracle Dr. Lin will definitely remember our kindness. But if we don't do anything now, then... Heh, House Yu used to be such a powerful existence, but now they're either dead or crippled, leaving only the crippled Yu Kun and his cousin Yu Haitian to take over House Yu. House Yu's assets are enough for them to live a rich life, but it's impossible for them to become a noble house again. Lu Tianli's expression was a little uncertain, but since his father said so, he nodded. All right, but we don't have much money left. If this continues, we won't be able to hold on much longer. Lu Zhenhu didn't care about the family's wealth, but he knew how serious the situation was after hearing Tianli's words. He sighed. Jing Jing, what do you think? We'll bet everything we have on this. Lu Jinghan said after some thought. We don't have a way out. We can either retreat now or hold on till the end. Once Lin Yi makes a comeback, he won't mistreat us. But what if he can't make a comeback? Tianli asked. Then we'll just start from scratch. Lu Jinghan shrugged. Dad, don't worry. If we really lose everything, then we'll start all over again. Tianli nodded. Since his daughter said so, he could only continue to support Fatty Lai. The wholesale price was very high at the beginning, and now that the price was lowered, even if the distributors didn't return the goods, House Lu would still have to compensate the distributors with a large amount of money. Fatty Lai couldn't take out this amount of money because he had invested all his money into the new production line and factory building. Only House Lu, as the distributor, could take it out temporarily. But as more and more people returned the goods, not only House Lu, but even Fatty Lai was starting to panic. Although Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company had its glory days, it was still too inexperienced. How could it compare to the old Dr. Kang's medical company? There was no doubt about the outcome of this market war. Dr. Kang would be the winner. Fatty Lai's days felt like years, but he gritted his teeth and persevered. He believed that as long as Lin Yi came back, all the problems would be solved. Chapter 1788. Chapter 1798. Arriving at Snowy Valley, the road ahead was getting more and more difficult, but Meng Yao had learned her lesson. She opened the sunroof and had Tang Yun use the binoculars to observe the road ahead. If something was wrong, they would immediately turn around and take a detour. Last time, it was because of Shu's plan that they were able to escape. If they met another robber, Meng Yao didn't know if she would be as lucky as them. If it wasn't for the two robbers' greed, they wouldn't have ended up like this. However, little Shu was also smart. She could see that these two people were extremely greedy, so she tricked them. If they weren't greedy again and again, they wouldn't have ended up like this. The road ahead is a bit rough. There are weeds everywhere, but there shouldn't be any danger. Tang Yun reported the road condition along the way, making Meng Yao feel more at ease. But it wasn't surprising. This was the kind of place where no one lived. Under normal circumstances, other than some expeditions, no one would come here. How far are we from Snowy Valley? How come I don't feel cold at all? Meng Yao was curious. The temperature here wasn't high, but there were trees and weeds. It didn't look like an extremely cold place. There should be around 10 kilometers left, but the road is rough. We might have to take a longer detour. Tang Yun said after comparing the coordinates on the map with the GPS. There were no roads here, so they could only make sure that they were going in the right direction. As for the specific route, they would have to find it themselves. Although Mo Kongwen had drawn the route map for them, they could only rely on themselves to adapt to the situation when there was no road for them. Hold on, we should be there today. Meng Yao had been driving for the past few days, and she was exhausted. But among the three girls, only she and Shu knew how to drive. Tang Yun didn't know how to drive, and Shu couldn't leave Lin Yi's side. So, Meng Yao had to drive alone. Finally, after a morning and afternoon, in the evening, the car finally passed through this jungle that was very difficult to pass through. However, after the jungle, there was a yellow wasteland. There was no vegetation here, and there were no birds or beasts. It could be said that this place was like the land of the dead in the movies. This kind of strange scene, especially under the illumination of the setting sun, seemed even more eerie and desolate, causing everyone's heart to shiver for no reason. What is this place? Tang Yun looked at the map in her hand. If it weren't for the fact that there was no problem with the direction, she would have thought that she was on the wrong path. I don't know, but the route given by Mr. Mo shouldn't be wrong. He wouldn't lie to us. Meng Yao increased the speed of the car. It was a barren wasteland, but the road conditions were much better than before, allowing the car to move faster. Unknowingly, Tang Yun sneezed and frowned. It's so cold. Meng Yao felt a chill down her spine after hearing Tang Yun's words. Previously in the forest, everyone was extremely hot, especially with Lin Yi and Shu, two natural furnaces. However, after coming to Wasteland, everyone felt the temperature dropped significantly. Even after Meng Yao turned off the sunroof and air conditioner, the cold could still penetrate through the car and into everyone's body. It's so cool. Yushu breathed out in relief. Along the way, she was dizzy from the heat, but after arriving here, she felt much better. Could it be that we are already close to Snowy Valley? The strong temperature difference made Tang Yun suspect that they weren't far from Snowy Valley. According to the map, it shouldn't be far from here. It seems like we found the right place. Meng Yao looked at the location on the map and GPS and let out a deep breath. Finally. We're almost there. It should be. Tang Yun nodded. If we hurry up, we might be able to reach Snowy Valley before the sun sets. This place was too barren. Compared to the forest before, everyone felt a sense of fear. They really didn't want to stay in this lifeless place for a second longer. Meng Yao increased the speed of the car and drove according to the coordinates on the GPS. Although there was no map here, and the GPS showed a huge blank space, as long as they knew the exact coordinates, they wouldn't go the wrong way. They didn't know when it started, but snowflakes started falling from the sky, and from the thin layer of snow on the ground, it turned into a thick layer of white. Meng Yao felt that it all happened in the blink of an eye. The white snow made Meng Yao slow down the car. After all, safety was the most important thing when driving in the snow. It's so cold here. If she didn't come here herself, Tang Yun wouldn't have known that there was such a magical place in this world. There was a forest not far away, but after a while, it was a barren land, followed by a thick layer of white snow. The environment here couldn't be judged by normal standards. Yun, you seem to be afraid of the cold. Meng Yao asked Tang Yun. I can't say that I'm afraid of the cold. It's just that I'm more sensitive to cold temperatures. But in winter, when the stove goes out in the middle of the night, I'm the one who can withstand the cold the most. Tang Yun said. As they moved forward, there was a depression. The terrain was getting lower and lower, as if it was a natural valley. The snow was getting heavier and heavier. This place could be considered a world of snow. It was hard to imagine that the weather here in August would be this cold. This should be the area of the Snow Valley, right? Meng Yao said as she looked at the coordinates on the GPS. It was all white in front of her, and she could only see a few dozen meters away. Anything further than that was all she could see. It was just a blur of fog. It should be. Let's look around. Where is the Snow Valley? Tang Yun frowned as well. The closer they got to the destination, the harder it was to find the target. They couldn't wander around in the snow, could they? There was a limit to the petrol in the car. If they used it all, how would they get back? However, just as they were getting lost, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the car. He shouted, "Who are you?" Meng Yao jumped in fright. She didn't expect someone to suddenly appear here. She quickly stopped the car. In fact, even if Meng Yao ran over, she wouldn't be able to hit the person. This person was a patrolling disciple of the Snow Valley. He had the strength of an Earth-class early phase. With this kind of strength, Meng Yao couldn't kill him even if she wanted to. #target =_blank. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.